Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Outworlders, Netherrealmers, Zaterans, Vaternians?
You know there's none of those. There's...
Is it Vaternians? Vaternians? What do you think?
Vampires. Whatever.
I guess if you want to be simple about it.
Actually, well,
Knock-knockins.
I have questions that would probably be best saved for the Natara episode, but in Armageddon they call them the Moroi, and I'm not sure if that's the name of their nation or the official term for the vampire race.
Check out the big brain on Brad. Alright, so we're here to discuss Crouching Tiger, Hidden Jackass, aka Kung Lao.
The less great of the two.
The less great, who currently believes he's
Although,
the most great.
You can't talk about one without talking about the other, though, so we're really probably going to cover both Kung Laos.
I guess. This is kind of an incidental matter. Now, there's not really that much to say about Kung Lao, because, aside from the fact that he's kind of an inspirational figure, a figure from the past, if you will.
Well, yeah, the thing about
you can summarize him as
is that
he's the guy who was killed by Goro after whipping Shang Tsung for a couple of generations worth of Mortal Kombat.
Well, yeah, it's sort of interesting to me that he's held up as this heroic figure when, like, his actual accomplishment is the least thing that a guy does in the first game of the actual series. Like, he's famous for dying, really.
Well, there's that.
I mean, he beat Shang in his prime, but couldn't take Goro, which means the sub-boss is tougher than the boss, but that is sometimes the case with the early MK games.
MK1's, like, the most flagrant example of it pretty well. Like, even MK2, when the arcade opens, and, like, you get Liu Kang flying, kicking Shang Tsung in the chest, they're in the Warrior Shrine, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't actually happen downstairs immediately after the fight with Goro. This is presumably,
there's a little bit of story about Shang, like, trying to run away and Liu going after him, because, like, Shang isn't actually the final battle. Like, when Liu beats Goro, that's it, the tournament's over, and the Shang fight is extra.
Pretty well.
But, like, I guess the thing that's curious to me is, like, the relevant thing about the Great Kung Lao is who is a descendant of who, because once the movies came out and the games tried to be more like the movies, it got fuzzy.
There was a bit of muddying of the waters. Nowadays that's not so much of a thing. They've kind of, they've cleared that up a little bit more.
Yeah, it was really only a thing in MK4.
Right.
But you put something in a bio once, and then you have to deal with it forever. But yeah, so the Great Kung Lao was introduced to us as this hero of legend for the Shaolin Temple. And since Liu Kang was from the Shaolin Temple, it was like, well, this guy from my people did it, and now I'm trying to live up to that ancient hero. And it wasn't until MK2 that we found out the ancient hero had a direct descendant. And then the question becomes, so why wasn't he at the tournament? Where was he during MK1? And the thing is, MK2 doesn't really answer that question. Like, there are some, like, vagaries, some hints that over the years led people to assume things about Kung Lao's personality that were never really there.
You're talking about the pacifism angle.
Yeah, see, a lot of people think that Kung Lao refused to participate in the tournament because he was a pacifist and he just didn't want to fight. And he's like, well, Liu Kang will handle it and I'll live my life the way I want to live my life. But that's not really the case. Kung Lao didn't adopt pacifism until the end of MK3. It was a character development moment. And people mistakenly assumed that he was that way all along, which kind of hurts the fact that it was character development. Like,
I think that here the actually like the Malibu comics might have a little bit to do with that.
That's probably the case.
But I'll get to that later on.
Yeah, I mean, you would know better than I would, but
yeah.
all we really have when Kung Lao is introduced in MK2 is in the official John Tobias MK2 comic, when Liu Kang is finding the ruins of the temple and finding out that while he was gone, it was attacked by Shang and Baraka and the Tarkatans. Kung Lao, like, sort of walks up to the ruins too, and he's like, "This is what fighting in the tournament got you. I hope you're happy."
So,
Like,
so there's that too, I guess. That probably contributes to it a little bit.
yeah, so but what's the argument there? Like, if he didn't fight, Earth would be conquered and this would happen everywhere instead of just to the temple. So
Are you insinuating Kung Lao was a whiny bitch from day one?
I'm not, but I am insinuating that the writing was not great in day one, at least for him.
Like, honestly, the question of who Kung Lao is as a person doesn't really, to me, kind of honestly crop up until his MK4 gold ending. There's things he wants to do. He has ambitions, but they're all just completely wayside.
I mean, the thing of it is, Kung Lao was created to be mysterious. Like, he's supposed to be the silent drifter type of character. Like, blue screen actor Tony Marquez has said that he directly drew inspiration from, like, Clint Eastwood as the man with no name.
Yeah, exactly.
And that he let that influence his body language when he was doing, like, wind poses and stuff. It was always tilt the head low, make sure the hat is hiding his face, keep it mysterious, make him seem like a quiet guy. And that's really cool for a first impression. But you can't maintain that because what you get is a character who has no backstory and becomes boring filler.
I think you can keep a person quiet and reserved, but that does not also have to mean that they're a pacifist or they don't like to fight.
Yeah, no, you can definitely have, like, a soft spoken, like, strong silent type character. You just can't have a mysterious character for too long before the mystery just sort of seems like they don't have a story.
I mean, I'm not asking them to just keep him quiet and mute and in the background the entire series through, because that wouldn't be very interesting after a certain point of time, no. But I think that they could stand to try to hide his eyes a little bit more.
I mean, absolutely, like,
they do that every now and then
for Kung Lao. And I mean, we'll get to this when we get to the modern era, but the opening quotes, the dialogue, the written personality needs work.
Just a little bit. There's almost kind of like a tale of two Kung Laos going on, but again, getting ahead of myself.
Yeah. But as for MK2, he's introduced sort of, and again, like, the question of, if he's the direct descendant of the great Kung Lao, and he's trained to fight too, and he's theoretically within spitting distance of Liu Kang's league, why didn't he go to the tournament? And
they already had their representative. There was a limit of there being more of their sending more than one.
Well, yeah, but it's sort of like, why wasn't he even shown applying? Like, where was he during MK1? And we sort of get, again, not direct references, but, like, these vague hints of, he chose to stay with the White Lotus Society rather than go back to the Shaolin Temple, which raises the question of, well, what is the White Lotus Society? What do they even do?
I was about to get to that very point.
Yeah, the games never explain that until Deception, at which point John Tobias isn't the writer anymore, so whatever his intentions were are lost. The Deception version is that the White Lotus Society was created by Raiden as it's sort of like a worldwide version of the Shaolin, to pull in fighters from all around the world, teach them about the Mortal Kombat tournament, and train them to protect the realm of Earth.
Now, his original aspirations were to reform the White Lotus Society. The actual real White Lotus Society was not really an organized society of any type. It was kind of a religious sect in its origins that kind of had roots in Buddhism and a little bit of Gnosticism here and there. And over time, it kind of became a widely applied term for different sects of rebellions. So,
yeah, it was very tied to like Chinese politics.
yeah.
And the thing is, also, obviously, the early MK games draw a lot of inspiration from 70s and 80s kung fu movies. And if you've watched enough Shaw Brothers flicks, you've probably heard the term White Lotus Clan before, which is, like, they're directly rivals to the Shaolin, and they're led by the infamous Pai Mei character.
We are recouping this because we just watched one such movie a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. But, like, as far as, like, Tobias's what he had planned for the White Lotus, he just never frickin' explained it. The best I can tell you is, like, look, Shaolin monks shave their heads and take all these vows and stuff. And obviously, Liu Kang and Kung Lao have long hair and don't wear orange and have all these, like, they're clearly not following, like, the vows
Traditional doctrine.
Yeah, like, they have, like, Liu Kang was occasionally biased back in the old days as a quote-unquote renegade monk, representing the fact that he had left the Shaolin Order. And that's why in MK1 he has to come back to the temple and be like, I know I'm not one of you anymore, but please let me represent you at the tournament.
I promise not to go back to my New York art studio. Which I guess kind of begs the question what the fuck he was actually
But yeah, so
anyway.
theoretically, Kung Lao originally didn't attend MK1 because he cared more about fighting for this Chinese rebellion than saving the entire planet.
The Chinese rebellion, or the deception version, which is actually, I don't know, one of Raiden's little shindigs, like you said.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If you go with the deception, like the current canon version of what the White Lotus Society is, which is a club that trains for the tournament, not going to the tournament no longer makes sense.
Right.
And that's why I often argue that the Shaolin Monks retcon of Kung Lao's personality, while it does make him super obnoxious, it actually does improve the explanation for why he didn't go. He wanted to go, but the Shaolin Temple, which, and this is canon since MK1, was only sent a single invitation. Shang said the Shaolin can only send one fighter. So Liu Kang and Kung Lao had to compete for it.
That's in the MK1 comic, if I remember right?
Yeah, the part about the Shaolin only being allowed to send one person, and Liu Kang going to them and petitioning to be the one person, has been canon since 1. Shaolin Monks just added the fact that Kung Lao also wanted to go and had to fight Liu for it.
And if I'm not mistaken, both Shaolin Monks and MK9 imply that he just goes, fuck it, and he sneaks into the place as a masked guard.
Yeah, he puts on a disguise and he goes to the island anyway because he doesn't think Liu can get the job done. Or he is jealous of Liu and wants to be the guy. Whichever the case.
Like, I mean, it's one of those soft retcons that, like, sure, okay. You can tell me that Kung Lao was actually around during the original MK1, but he wasn't one of the 7 main competitors, and I can buy that. That's not,
I mean, there's a
that's
lot of,
not
like,
huge to me.
Like, there are certain kinds of retcon that are acceptable, and being at the island but not in the bracket opens a lot of opportunity for certain characters like Ermac, who was a rumor in 1, not introduced until Ultimate MK3, but you can reference the fact that he's been in the fans' minds since 1 by saying, well, he was at the island, he was like a secret assassin, he wasn't in the tournament. The same way, Reptile as a hidden character was not in the tournament, but he was there as Shang's bodyguard. And also, like, the masked guards are too iconic an image not to do something with them, and this, lets it be a little bit more. One of those guys is secretly a character in disguise. I think that's interesting.
Me too. I would take masked guard Kung Lao DLC outfit. I really would.
Yeah. Again, like, the problem with the Shaolin Monks retcon was never the story side of it. It was just how they wrote his personality to be so fucking childish.
Yeah, that was it. Like, I didn't like how whiny and obnoxious he came off as. And that's a problem that kind of comes and goes from Shaolin Monks onward.
Yeah. But anyway, so the other thing that I think is, like, look, if you're writing Kung Lao from a logical progression of the story standpoint, you can do the jealousy angle during the tournament, but once you get to MK2, the guy's got bigger problems on his mind. His entire temple was wiped out, and he wants revenge, okay? When he's that angry at Baraka and Shang Tsung and wants to kill them so bad, he doesn't have time to also be whining about whether him or Liu is the better fighter. Like, he's actually in the MK2 bracket. What's he now crying about? He has his chance to prove himself.
Ah, yes, Baraka.
And again, like, I am arguing for character development. I believe that having a character start one way and gradually evolve, like, respond naturally to the events that are occurring to them to become a deeper character over time, that's the point of writing stories. That's the reason that we tell stories as human beings, is to show this progression, to show that people, we grow and change as we get older and we have life experiences. Like, nobody is static.
Quite right. In Kung Lao's case, though, he's got this obstacle course of inopportune timing, this gauntlet that he has to run. His MK2 ending at the very end actually kind of plants the seed for what happens at the end of MK4 with him and Goro. Like, you know, it's obviously it's not canon, and actually the MK2 ending, this particular line, with his strength and spirit in complete alignment, he finally avenges the death of his great ancestor. Now, I mean, he didn't fight Goro to do that.
I mean, by fighting Outworld, who Goro worked for, it's like a symbolic avenging.
Yeah, it is. But still,
it does set up
plants that seed. Like, he has a chip on his shoulder about his ancestors' like defeat and death.
Yeah, and that has also been like a consistent thing, that he's always wanted to redeem the fact that his ancestor died 500 years ago against Goro.
Right.
So that's not a new thing either. But like, what's interesting to me is there is in that MK2 ending, there is like this sort of see-through, almost Force Ghost-like image of the great Kung Lao.
And it looks like Mickey Rooney.
Yeah, he's an old man, and like, the great Kung Lao couldn't have grown old because he was the MK champion when he died.
It is completely just like a stock photo of some random guy, maybe a family member of the staff. It might honestly be Mickey Rooney, I don't know.
I think Tobias... Well, it's clearly like an old Asian man. Tobias was looking through photographs of actual Buddhist monks or something.
Possible. Maybe it's a random Buddhist monk just placed there for no reason. Who knows? I mean, there's that. There's the fact that Sub-Zero in his own ending in this game is literally some random Asian guy. You know?
Well, the actor in Sub-Zero's ending is actually one of the developers. It's Josh Tsui, isn't it?
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah.
Well, son of a bitch, I did not know that. There you go. So, I guess the point is, MK2 endings are not exactly consistent with their background imagery. It was still early days. Things had yet to evolve.
The thing about, like...
I think that Kung Lao might have been one of the first dudes in a fighting game with a fully controllable projectile.
Yeah, you could, like, steer the hat up and down when you threw it.
It was a lot of fun to play as the guy. Like, you know, the Razor hat was new.
Like, you had to steer the hat when you're doing his fatality, and it was really subtle to get the neck.
Oh my god, it's the worst. I fucking hate it. They brought it back as a brutality in 11. I don't know when I got it, but I got it at some point. I picked up Kung Lao like last week, and I'm like, hey, cool! And it's actually much easier to land a hit. So it's kind of rewarding.
Yeah. I want to shout out to the pull the rabbit out of the hat friendship, because that'll also come back in Shaolin Monks.
Oh, but in a very special way.
Oh, yeah.
I do kind of want to punch whoever the hell decided that, like, his spinning input should have been, like, up, and low kick in the first MK2 game.
Ugh.
Like, yeah, see, normally I'm really conservative about how I like my inputs to stay, and, like, there's never been much in the way of continuity, apart from some very, very old moves here and there, but like not all the time. But I got over the awkwardness of it being forward down four to run in MK3 and onwards like really quickly. Oh my god!
Yeah, up is like those up inputs where like you pretty much have to hold block or they won't go off because you're fucking just gonna jump.
They like to keep them for stuff like disappearing and whatnot.
Yeah.
But for something that's actually an aerial counterattack, or like it's an anti-air, forcing someone to hold up and to hold block and go up with a low, it's painful. I'm glad they swapped it out. How about that dive kick, huh? That dive kick has caused so much fucking grief.
That is the first dive kick in the Mortal Kombat series, the first of many.
He predicts Akuma's dive kick, point in fact. Sips tea and smugly. So what do you think? MK2 costume or MK3 outfit? What's your preference?
The MK3 outfit was always weird to me because it's like suspenders.
Thank you. Like, I'm glad someone else agrees. Whenever there's like a retro
I don't think our opinion on this is actually weird. It's just that NRS keeps adapting the MK3 outfit for some reason.
I've never really understood it. Do you know what like the guy's outfit says? I don't think it's a problem with that.
It's the character is Wu, as in like the first half of Wushu.
Okay.
And it means like martial, as in like the first half of the phrase martial arts.
Okay, right. And I think that they've kept that on some of his MK11 costumes, even on the back.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of games where he has it. He has like a different character in Deadly Alliance that I don't know what that one means.
I think, point in fact, the character is still there. Yeah, it's still there in his MK3 outfit, but it's just like it's on the red patch on the left suspender.
Yeah, he definitely has it in the MK3 outfit, and then he wears that outfit again in 4, and then in Deadly Alliance, he has 2 outfits. One where he's just in sort of very plain robes with the hat on his back and a big ponytail, and then he has another outfit that looks kind of Shaolin Monksy. And that outfit has a different character that's not Wu on the back.
No idea what it is? If anyone else does, let us know.
Point, but I can't remember it anymore. I don't think it's Akuma's heaven symbol, but it's similar.
But no, I couldn't tell you what that actually means. I've never been sure. Never certain. But I figured I'd bring up the MK2 and 3 costumes just because I don't know for the life of me why they constantly like go for the MK3 one.
Well, I feel like if you just raw translate the MK2 outfit like accurately, it's got kind of a pajamas quality. He's wearing like a blue monk robe, and he's got like this apron thing over top of it. And something about the apron makes the robe look weird and more like farmer's overalls or a pair of pajamas or something.
But that's what adapting things is all about, right?
Yeah, like you can definitely make some changes to it and it would look good.
They have brought it back here and there, but it's just that whenever they choose to actually just do a straight retro, they never do that one straight.
Well, yeah, like in Shaolin Monks, they designed a new outfit that looks more like his Deadly Alliance costume instead of using something closer to 2.
Maybe they were just never happy with it. I don't know.
I don't know either, but
perhaps they thought that the red character on the chest was too overstated. I don't know.
I don't know. I like it bigger because like he usually wears it on his back nowadays. If he has it.
Yeah.
And like he has an outfit in MK10. His tournament skin, for the flashback scenes. That is basically a modernization of the MK2 outfit. And I really like that one a lot, except for like the long braided hair.
I actually wound up enjoying it more than I thought I would, the braid. But we'll get to that. No, I thought that was a pretty good reimagining, putting the character over the general loin area, I guess. He looks good in that.
It's alright.
Anyhow. So, it's not a problem with the character or anything, but maybe they're just never happy with it. But okay, on to our next topic. We're talking about MK2 here.
Yeah.
Your opinion on this is different because you still adhere to the recording, which implies that Raiden killed Kintaro by disintegrating him.
Yeah, I just think because the reason I like that is because it involves Jax, and therefore it pays off the fact that Jax and Kintaro fought each other in the official Tobias comic. And I like the idea of the two of them are like the two physically strongest characters in the game. You have the strongest person on Earth fighting this example of how people in Outworld are just plain stronger. Like they have these alien races that are 4 arms and all muscle, and like how can he possibly compete? You need Jax to lose to that guy to help explain why he wanted bionic arms in 3, I think.
Or you could just rip them off.
Well, you could just rip them off, but that wasn't the old timeline canon.
No,
he
it
had
was
real
not.
arms.
It was not.
They were gloves.
I bring that up because it seems to be the intention from, like, maybe Shaolin Monks onward to possibly have Kung Lao considered to be the guy that takes down Kintaro. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that MK9 also brought him towards the end of the tournament and, like, had him set that fight up. I think that there's something there that they're trying to push maybe a little bit. The second best Shaolin has to settle for the second best Shokan in their eyes, perhaps.
The weird thing about it, though, is that, like, Kintaro's the guy you fight right before Shao Kahn, so how did Liu get to Kahn if Kung Lao's the one who beat Kintaro? Because obviously, like, in 9 they explained that by having Kahn kill Kung Lao, but that's not what happened in the old timeline.
No. I mean, it's possible that Liu maybe convinced Kung Lao to abdicate his position, or challenged Kahn himself directly before the match could take place.
Like, the scenario of there being 2 Earth guys left at the Kintaro Shao Kahn stage of the tournament doesn't create a bracket that makes sense.
But let's be fair, brackets in MK have never made a lot of sense at all.
Yeah, but I feel like we shouldn't just accept that a lack of brackets is the actual canon. We should treat that as a mistake. I've always believed that in the original timeline there were brackets. We just weren't privy to them.
I mean, Shaolin Monks kind of showed us some sort of weird free-for-all happening.
Shaolin Monks has a completely different plot where they're not even invited to Outworld. They just show up at the arena and Khan is like, well, since Shang tricked you into coming here, we might as well do a thing.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not.
Like, it's a completely different story.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending it, but I just figured I'd bring up the fact that they don't seem to consider there having been any kind of logical tournament rules.
Right, but I don't consider that to be a thing done on purpose. I consider that to be the product of bad writing.
I don't know about bad writing. Probably just lack of forethought. Bad planning.
Like, I just don't think they're competent enough to create a bracket. The people who have handled Shaolin Monks and MK9.
I mean, like, what the hell kind of tournament leaves 7 people at the end anyway?
Well, 8 people and one of them dies.
Sure, I guess. Why not?
Maybe
someone got disqualified.
MK1 was attended by like 30 to 60 people. Of them died. It's not that there were only the 7 playable characters were just the only survivors of the tournament. They weren't the only people who attended the tournament.
I know that. I'm very well aware. But yeah, Kung Lao. I bring that up just because I just wanted to point out that note, that they seem to really want to pair him up against Kintaro, or they want that opening
That is a lately... I think it's because, again, trying to draw that comparison, that rivalry with Liu Kang, and it's like, well, Liu got to fight the bosses of 1, so I want to fight the bosses of 2.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Also kind of makes you think that, you know...
But I just think that
you did fight Goro in Shaolin Monks, and Kung Lao never made that much of a big deal about it. I think he would have been more excited. Yeah,
that's the weird thing, like... They amplify that side of his character, and then in both Shaolin Monks and 9, he does fight Goro, And then he doesn't talk about it afterward, like he forgot it was important to him.
Underneath that hat, meh, I'm the best, meh, but I gotta be humble.
It's so poorly written. Like people just forget their own motivations in the middle of scenes.
I think that this just serves as just one of the best examples as to like how poorly B characters in MK kind of tend to get treated. Kung Lao is like the little engine
that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I feel that the Kintaro Jax Raiden rumor should be true, is because Jax doesn't get a lot development wise. Like he needs that little bit to push him to the metal arms if you're not going to have them ripped off for no reason.
I honestly think that Jax did way better throughout the entire original and the new timeline than Kung Lao did. Food for the Jax retrospective, though.
Yeah.
He still had a lot to go through in both timelines. But Kung Lao...
Here's the thing about Kung Lao's development through 2, though, is I feel that the core struggle, the impetus to develop, should be the clash between him and Liu Kang over whether or not to kill their enemies. Because Kung Lao, even in the original timeline version, especially in the new timeline version, is completely gung-ho about the revenge for the temple. Like, there's no point in it where he even considers that, oh, killing people is wrong, or that it'll taint my soul and I'll go to hell when I die. You know, there's none of that. It's just, they destroy the temple, we need to fucking end them. Shang Tsung and Baraka must go. Whereas Liu Kang, obviously, like, the temple attack is his fault, because he let Shang live. And that's part of his character struggle. He went into MK1 refusing to kill people and saying, you know, back when the Shaolin ran the tournament, it wasn't even deathmatch rules. Shang perverted it, and I'm gonna fix it. And then, like, letting the bad guy live, the bad guy comes back and kills all his family. So, like, that's the struggle I want to see in the MK2 part of the story for the Shaolin Monks, is this argument between them of whether or not killing is okay. And Kung Lao obviously represents the side of wanting revenge, and that carries into Trilogy and 4, where Baraka somehow gets chopped in half and stapled back together.
Tarkatan bitches get stitches.
Like, again, this is a dropped plot. This is a thing that Midway failed to develop properly. But in my head, Kung Lao got his fucking revenge, and it's just that there are ways for people not to die in this universe, unfortunately. But he got Baraka's ass, and, like, that's important to him.
That is acknowledged in, I think, the opening to MK9, because that fucking hat is wedged into Baraka's skull. Again.
That's true. Like, the bodies in the Armageddon scene.
Like,
Lao did it again.
Twice. And it is a completely dropped plot point, just like the White Lotus were dropped, because there was no time for it.
In my opinion, it's little things like these that explain why we needed not a reboot, but remakes by someone who knew the story and didn't want to change it, but wanted to explain it. You could have done so much to take the stories that already existed and improve them and flesh them out instead of deleting and rewriting them.
Keep telling you, man, this is what Mugen is for. Just learn a little bit of programming, and you can make your own version. It's easy. I'm having fun making that fire god. Gonna be a long process, but it's gonna be worth it.
Alright.
Anyway.
If you want me to, I'll write some bios and endings for your Mugen game.
Fucking A, do it. Alright, so dropped White Lotus, dropped Baraka Rivalry, implied, still kind of in the background, to my mind, arguably still canon because of the hat thing in 9, but just sort of not actually a part of his presented story at any point.
Well, that's another thing, like jumping from 2 into 3. The start of 3, and we have mentioned before that somehow the heroes knew there was going to be an invasion ahead of time. Like, Kitana's spying during 2, she found out that Khan was planning an invasion somehow, even if he lost the tournament. So they all went home knowing one was coming. And so Liu Kang and Kung Lao were like, okay, we have to reassemble the White Lotus Society. We have to call all of our former colleagues who are spread around the world, because apparently, like, this doesn't come up in 2, but apparently the White Lotus was disbanded or something, or they're just all living their lives and they only get together for meetings every so often, and that's the way they operate, whatever it is. But Liu and Lao were going, okay, well, the Shaolin are gone. Let's get our Kung Fu buddies from the White Lotus together, and so we'll have a team to fight when this invasion starts. The problem is, before they could pull off that meeting, the invasion started. And Shao Kahn took everybody's souls except for the people that were protected because they were the chosen ones, and so Liu and Kung Lao were on their own.
I can just picture Kung Lao in a room full of his Kung Fu buddies who are now, like, moldering green corpses. Fuck! Fuck! Again with this shit!
Alright, Liu Kang and Kung Lao have a lot, like, they witness the deaths of their friends and family multiple times.
I can't blame the guy with the hat for wanting to straight up murder people. He's been through a lot.
I mean, granted, everybody who dies at the beginning of 3 comes back, but they didn't know that when they were...
Now, his MK3 ending, since we're still also talking about the great Kung Lao here when we can,
yeah,
he's irrelevant. His MK3, because he dies in MK3, or he comes close to death. According to
well,
MK4.
so that is basically the actual canon ending of Mortal Kombat 3, is that regardless of what every other character is doing, the ones who make it to Shao Kahn, they get to his throne room in the Pit 3, and they fight him in the final battle, was Liu Kang and Kung Lao together. The two of them fought a 2-on-1 match against Shao Kahn. So, like, the whole Liu Kang is always winning all the things, and he's, like, 1v1ing everyone. Not always true. MK3 was, in fact, a team effort. The thing is, during that fight, Kung Lao was wounded. It looked like mortally wounded. And Liu Kang is, like, seeing him apparently die, and that makes him angry enough to finish the fight. It pushes him to like when Goku sees Krillin die and goes Super Saiyan.
Yeah. As I've said before, if you want to picture this in game terms, picture, I don't know, maybe Khan whacking him off the Pit 3 with a hammer, and then Kung Lao dive kicking his way over the blades to safety somewhere.
I always kind of imagine this, like, hurt really, really bad, and that there's time for, like, Liu to kneel at his side and him to have some, like, touching last words and pass out. And then later he wakes up and he's like, oh, I guess it wasn't that bad after all.
Oh, man.
But
well,
yeah, like,
let me see what MK Gold says. Just for a
yeah, so the thing is, like, MK3 presents it as if it's going to be canon that Kung Lao actually does die. Like, his ending ties into Liu Kang's ending as though they're both canon. Like,
it's 100% legible as completely canon. The whole thing.
Like, the idea was Kung Lao did die in that fight, and his ending is about him going to heaven and joining his ancestor, the great Kung Lao, in enlightenment.
By the way, the great Kung Lao, pictured in this ending, as I was going to say, can be considered no way or shape or form an old man. This guy is huge.
Like, you only see them in silhouette, but he's a full, like, Kung Lao's head comes to great Kung Lao's shoulders. He is very tall.
He is very great. This was a very large man.
So, like, when you're picturing the great Kung Lao, picture Bolo Young.
Maybe with a little bit more or less pec flexing. Who knows?
Which, to be fair, he was very large and buff in the original MK1 comic. It is consistent, actually, that, like, great Kung Lao was a huge dude.
That's, like, shape-wise, I think that's one of the few times we've ever actually really seen him. So, yeah, that still works for me, that MK3 image.
Yeah, I like it. But yeah, so like his MK3 ending is him going into the light. Like he fucking dies. And then MK4 Gold comes out and it's like, actually no. Like that did happen, but he didn't die.
So MK4 is where the life without violence thing comes into play.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about it is that if you just take it as written, Kung Lao basically stood back up, dusted himself off, walked away, and never told his friends that he's still alive. Like he just decided, I don't want to fight anymore. I want to be a pacifist. The best way to go about that is if none of my kung fu buddies know that I'm not dead. So he goes off to live in a cave like a hermit or something.
But somehow news still reaches him. So I tend to think that Raiden at the very least had to know he was alive. But he probably told Raiden, I'm sick of it. I can't do it anymore. I've had my ass handed to me. And this is actually, I think, going back to the Kung Lao douchebag persona here, this would be a good place, if this had actually happened in the original games, to remove or lessen said douchebag persona and have him learn a bit of humility.
Yeah, this would be the period where, like, I'm reminded of, like, the old man Kung Lao in MKX.
Yes.
And, like, all of his intros are sort of... He's not really an asshole anymore. He's more like a wizened old man who's got some snarky fortune cookie wisdom. And I really like that character.
That was pretty much how I've always pictured Kung Lao to be post MK4.
Yeah.
I'm in love with the portrayal of that personality. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the kind of character he should be when he emerges from hermitude in MK4.
Or ideally, had he actually been able to come back from having his neck snapped, and had we not wound up with, like, Revenant Lao.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But as far as, like, the gap between 3 and 4 and the hermit thing goes, and me kind of thinking that it's a dick move to not tell your friends you're still alive, you know, like, they're off having a funeral for you, and you just want to, like, stay indoors and play video games or whatever.
They never said Kung Lao was not a dick.
It's just kind of insensitive. And, like, for me, I think there's nowhere that explicitly says this. It's just how I prefer to imagine it happened. I don't think that he chose to be a hermit on purpose. I think that because he passed out inside Shao Kahn's castle, you could argue that when all the Outworld stuff was sucked back into Outworld when the merger ended at the end of 3, Kung Lao was still in the castle, so he ended up in Outworld with no way home because all the portals were closed. And so I think it would make more sense if he just decided, well, I'm stuck here. I might as well make a life for myself in Outworld, and that's why he never told anybody that he was still alive.
It's possible, because he doesn't also just learn the invasion and whatnot. He also learns that Goro is back.
Well, yeah, that's what...
Which is what gets him off of his ass.
Like, he's not even really interested in saving the world from Shinnok. He comes out of hiding specifically because he finds out Goro is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, this is an important thing about the old timeline. Between MK1 and MK4, Goro is not canonically in 2 and 3. He's not in any of the games. Like,
in 2, he's missing and everyone thinks he's dead. In Trilogy, he's selectable, but he's not around during the invasion.
PlayStation version, and I consider the PlayStation version non-canon. I think N64 Trilogy is real trilogy.
I think we've been over this, though, but it also establishes
it's a weird, fuzzy gray area, but basically, either way, Goro in Trilogy is not canon.
Or at the very least, he's not actually around.
Yeah, canonically, Goro, after MK1, went into hiding because he was so ashamed that he lost, and he let his people think he was dead. And he didn't come out until 4. Where he's like, okay, I'm ready for my rematch with Liu Kang, I'm gonna redeem myself and come back to my people. And Kung Lao heard Goro was out there, and he's like, you know, I never got the chance to avenge my ancestor. I guess now's the time. So I guess that is the one thing more important to him than giving up fighting and having a peaceful pacifist life.
The chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. Well, it's not exactly a chip on his shoulder, because then you get to his ending. And his version of getting revenge is to... So his MK Gold ending
This is
takes place...
great. This is great stuff.
It's in Goro's throne room. Goro is having a diplomatic meeting with Kitana about signing a treaty between the Shokan and the Centaurs.
And for anyone wondering, like, where MK5 gets a lot of its build-up from, where it leads off from, this is the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of Deadly Alliance stuff that's set up here.
This is hugely important stuff.
Right. So
real
all
lore,
of a sudden,
people. Sorry.
All of a sudden, Kung Lao is like standing on one of the rafters and sneak attacks Goro with the hat. And he just throws it once and it cuts across Goro's chest and leaves a scar. And then he hops down from the rafters like he wants to fight, and Kitana's like, "How could you do this? We're signing a peace treaty now, really?" And
Goro's like, "Was that your attempt at assassinating me, little man?
Is that the best you can do?
I fought your ancestor. Like, he was as big as I am. You ain't shit, son."
And Kung Lao's like, wait. I don't actually want to fight. That was a ceremonial strike of revenge. Now, I want to shake your hand. Peace between us.
Yeah.
So, like...
This motherfucker
actually
grew up.
Not an asshole after all.
Or if he was, he finally grew up and out of it.
Yeah, like he found the pacifist solution to the need to avenge his ancestor. He found like the honorable warrior way to do it, but also the way that isn't like killing a guy.
God, just a story that begins with like Chapter 1, skips ahead to Chapter 6, then goes back to like 3 and 4. Watching Kung Lao's character evolution is like watching the Star Wars saga. It's all out of order.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, like, and like, I want to be like happy about this ending because it does show development. Like, MK2 Kung Lao would not have done it this way, and New Timeline Kung Lao would never think to do it this way. And that's a problem with the New Timeline, because he never grows into this point either. But, like, okay, so after this ending, like, Deadly Alliance, Deception, Armageddon, Kung Lao doesn't get much character.
He gets a bit of training.
He's definitely not angry. Like, he's not an asshole. It feels like it's not explicitly said, but it feels like Deadly Alliance through Armageddon Kung Lao is a guy who still wants to go back to being a hermit and live the pacifist life. Stances won't let him.
There's just really not a lot going on for him.
Yeah, like, he can't help the fact that he lives in a world that's constantly under attack and that Liu Kang died, so who else is gonna do it?
To be really blunt about it, what happens to him in Deadly Alliance is that, like, after finding Liu Kang's dead body, he trains with Bo Raicho, and he learns, like, the whirlwind kick, and they all head into Outworld, and eventually, him and Kitana have a showdown with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, and they die! And it's zombie time all over again.
Like, Deadly Alliance is set up very much to make you think Kung Lao is the new main character, that he's actually going to step into Lu's shoes now that Lu's gone. And then it swerves you and the bad guys win. So, Lao really can't catch a break. At all.
There kind of really is no real protagonist for Deadly Alliance, is there?
No.
That's an oddity.
And again, that's sort of, like, Deadly Alliance is sort of the Empire Strikes Back of the series. And that's, like I kind of like the fact that the bad guys win, because it does shake things up a little bit. It does, it sets up deception.
Oh yeah, and, like, no complaints. It was refreshing to not have another tournament where, Kang wins. And
it's not like a subvert your expectations in the way that, like, The Last Jedi is, where it's just kind of like a shallow gotcha from a postmodernist. It actually fits the narrative to have the bad guys win for once.
Can we just not go there? Ugh.
I just want to, you know, it's not always right to subvert things, but sometimes you do want the bad guys to win just to like set up the next thing.
It's good to subvert things if you've got a clever alternate path planned.
Yeah, when you have a plan, and Deadly Alliance Into Deception was the first and only time they have ever had a plan.
You don't subvert things just for the sake of subverting them.
No, you have to know what you're going to do next from there.
Sadly, Kung Lao just doesn't get a lot to work with through the 3D era.
Yeah, I think... So you have to feel bad for Kung Lao that he's really not set up to ever be the guy. But you also sometimes have to accept that characters fit specific roles. And, like, this is what he is designed to be. He's just not the guy. Like, he's not made to be the guy. Like, there are other victories you can give him, but he's not going to beat the end boss. And it's sort of like Jax is never going to be the guy either. Sonya's never going to be the one who beats a Shao Kahn or a Shinnok. Like, but people don't get upset when they don't. You know, people get upset when Kung Lao doesn't because it feels like they were building up to it.
Just he can't fulfill anything. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, see, like I just feel like if he had a personal victory, like if you really acknowledged him killing Baraka and making peace with Goro, that's all you need. Like, as long as a character resolves their personal arcs to be the one who takes down the end boss, they just have to live their own best life.
Poor little engine that could and didn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the thing about so obviously after MK4, Kung Lao goes back to the Shaolin Temple. I guess he's had enough of being a hermit, or if you follow my personal logic of him having been trapped in Outworld and forced to live that life, now he's got a way home at the end of the game. So he goes back to the temple, and it is a sad, cruel irony that the reason Liu Kang died is because Shang used his morphing to disguise himself as Kung Lao and sneak up on him.
A lot of Kung Lao disguising going on. Almost like he's a cipher for more important events.
Yeah, I mean, if you were gonna jump Liu, disguise yourself as his friend will do it. But yeah, so Kung Lao definitely has a reason to like feel guilty, and I imagine that plays into part of his motivation to, you know, fight in Deadly Alliance as opposed to continuing to pursue pacifism.
Just when they thought he was out, they pulled him back in.
Exactly.
His conquest says that it was Raiden who tells Kung Lao that Shang Tsung killed Kang. Although I seem to remember Kung Lao kneeling beside his body. No, wait, no.
I think there was a picture of that too, yeah. Like one of the loading screens or something?
Possible. I might be conflating the memory with him going, "Are you okay?" in Shaolin Monks.
Finds out, I guess, from Raiden that Shang was impersonating him when he did it. And I guess that's enough to immediately throw out the window his whole life as a pacifist. And immediately, like, I have to make up for... I have to get revenge. And that's... It's kind of the shame of Kung Lao, is that he doesn't really have a choice over how he gets to live his own life, pushed and pulled this way and that by the universe.
This is, I think, one of the reasons that him starting to have that real mad-on for Liu Kang and this rivalry they started pushing kind of seemed to come out of nowhere, because they wanted to give him something of his own, rather than just have him be a reed in the wind.
Yeah.
At the time, though, it was just, like, right out of the blue. I did not see it coming.
Well, I think the problem that's always kind of driven how they treat Kung Lao's character is that the story doesn't need two Liu Kangs. He only exists because they had the idea of a guy with a hat. Like, I want a guy who throws his hat like Oddjob. What do we do with him? Let's make him another monk. Let's make him a friend of Liu. And, you know, permanent sidekick syndrome is naturally what follows from that design choice.
It also really does not help the fact that he's got the sidekick syndrome where there are already plenty of pre-existing viable, strong sidekick characters.
Yeah, I mean, like, Johnny Cage was specifically created to sort of be the guy who follows Liu around and says funny things while Liu's doing the real work.
Like, that into consideration, looking back on it, I'm not even surprised at all that MK9 killed him off. I mean, it was then, but, you know, it is what it is, and if they've got to axe someone for shock factor, it's not going to be Johnny nowadays. It's probably not going to be Sonya.
Yeah.
It's not when you're getting things started out.
Well, I mean, this is also part of the reason why Kung Lao doesn't really appear in any of the adaptation stuff.
Right.
Like, the entire generation of movie, TV show, cartoon all left him out. But, like, I feel like for a lot of people look at Deadly Alliance as this should have been the game where Kung Lao became the hero.
I mean,
because he's got this...
For all we know, it kind of was up until Deception came out and went, nope.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the game sort of presents him as though it's building him up to be the main character. In, like, he's the one who's trying to replace Liu most directly, and he goes on a whole training montage experience. Like, he goes to Bo Raicho and learns a new special move that's supposed to be even better than the Dragon Kick.
Ah, yes.
And then, like, Deadly Alliance's whole stock of trade is, surprise, the bad guys win at the end.
I'm not disputing it. It's just sucks to be that guy, you know?
Yeah, like, I like the fact the bad guys win in Deadly Alliance. I don't know that there's anything you can do for Kung Lao.
And he's already come off of being nearly killed and thought dead and having gone into hiding once, and this time he actually does die.
Like
I really
there are a few characters in MK who I kind of put in the same category of, like, could have been, but there's no real place for them to be. Like Nightwolf, Raiden sometimes. Like, these guys all could theoretically be the main character, but at the same time, they shouldn't. It's hard to give someone their due and yet also have roles that fit the plot as opposed to just promoting a guy because you think he's cool.
I don't know if I'd put Nightwolf up there. Like, he's very much
I don't know. I've always thought real big of Nightwolf, even before MK9. Like, his role in 3 is sort of, Raiden's not here, so here's the new Raiden. And then in Trilogy, Raiden came back.
He's consulting with the Elder Gods. See, he was a god for a day. You know, all complaints about Annihilation, and there were many complaints about Annihilation, aside, like, him being, like, the plot point for Liu to, stop and gain wisdom from before fucking off into the night, you know? It was alright. It was a good use of the character.
Well, I mean, it was a small glimmer of what he was supposed to do in 3. Like, in the actual MK3, Raiden is like, the Elder Gods won't let me help, and Raiden is his proxy out in the world, gathering all the heroes and bringing them to the base.
The only way, 3 is ever going to work, or could work, the way that 3 through Trilogy depicted it, is on an HBO miniseries or something. You can't even fit that shit into one movie.
I've been saying for 15 years that if you're to properly remake Mortal Kombat 3, I think it needs to be like a JRPG.
Ha! You're not wrong.
Because there's a blatant party system in that plot.
Cabal has joined the party.
Basically, that's totally kind of how it goes. It's basically like Final Fantasy VI. So Kung Lao goes and trains with Bo Raicho and learns the whirlwind kick, which is like a a spinning bike kick, so it's better than both of Lu's best moves.
This
in
is
theory.
I also actually kind of felt that there was room there for them to say that this was a technique that the great Kung Lao used often. That would have been a nice hand-me-down. Shame they didn't.
I mean, it would be nice to know anything about Great Kung Lao's moves. You know, because he's never been a character. Like, he's never been in a game.
I think it was 500 Sunglasses was asking us if we were going to, like, have an episode devoted specifically to the great Kung Lao. Okay, here it is. He's swole. He's swole and Goro killed his ass.
He's very large. You know what I really enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
Is that ever since I came up with the theory that, like, hey, Great Kung Lao wears a headband. What if it's the same headband Liu Kang now wears? Like, Goro took it when he beat him, and then Liu took it back when he beat Goro? Like, I came up with that idea. I see it all over the internet now, like on message boards and in other people's fan fiction. They're all borrowing it. I love it. Like, I don't even mind that they're not giving me credit. I like it when my shit catches on.
It's possible they had the idea independently.
I mean, it is, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of the people, the places I'm seeing it, I think those are people who have read my stuff.
It's a possibility. Others could have also been watching Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, and got the same fucking idea. I don't know. Anyhow, so Kung Lao learns techniques, regroups with the others. Kitana trains Kitana trains alongside him too, if I remember right.
Yeah, the structure of Deadly Alliance is kind of odd because so Raiden gathers up the party and he takes them to Outworld, and then the party all splits off to do their own little side quests. Like, I'm not entirely sure why Sub-Zero and Frost go off, and then, like, you know, they meet Serena, and Frost turns on him, and he has to bury her body. I'm not sure why they left the main group. And then, like, Kung Lao goes and meets up with Kitana, and the two of them train with Bo Raicho. That makes sense. Sonya goes off on her own to see if she can find Cyrax and Kenshi, because they're both lost. That's why she came to Outworld. Jax goes off to track down Su Hao, I think, which ended up being pointless because when he finally catches up to him, it's at the Deadly Alliance's castle. The heroes were going there anyway. But, like, Johnny Cage is there, and he does nothing. So I'm not sure what him and Raiden are up to the entire time, like, Kung Lao and Kitana are training.
I want to believe that he wanted to give a partner to someone, but everyone was taken. And he didn't trust him to go off alone, so Raiden got stuck with Johnny.
Did they, like, sit at a campfire for 2 weeks waiting for everybody to come back?
No, Johnny, I do not wish to see you reenact Who's That for the 11th time using sock puppets. Good times.
It's that's always kind of been something I've wondered about. But yeah, so then the group regathers and they go assault the Deadly Alliance's fortress. And I'm pretty sure if you go by the conquest modes, it says that Kung Lao and Kitana made it to the Deadly Alliance.
We
find out in Deception that everybody else kind of died on the front gate to a horde of Tarkatans. Like, Johnny, Sonya, and Jax fell there.
I think they kind of stormed the place en masse, and everyone kind of held them off while they figured that Kitana and Kung Lao, who are either their best shot at victory or the people who deserve to get in there the most.
Yeah. I find it interesting that they died to Tarkatans because usually Tarkatans don't get shit.
It's one of the very rare examples where, like, the 1,000 ninjas actually wind up taking lives. It's cool, isn't it?
It's almost a shame that it was the Tarkatans and not Baraka, you know? Like,
he could be in there.
I'm sure he's in there, it's just that he doesn't really get the credit for sure, you know? It was strength in numbers as opposed to him actually getting a win for once.
In an ideal world, he's like, this is for the stitches. Oh wait, I've missed. Damn. I got the actor. I'll take it.
So yeah, like, presumably Kung Lao and Kitana survived the Tarkatans and made it to the Deadly Alliance, and then died against Shang.
And I believe that it actually said that Kung Lao took on Shang and Kitana took on
Kung Lao
Quan
took on
Chi.
Shang, which left Kitana against Quan Chi.
Well,
and I'd like to believe I'd like to believe that Kung Lao would have won that fight, that the good guys actually would have won in Deadly Alliance if they didn't make the obvious mistake of fighting Shang Tsung in a room with a tornado of souls.
Yeah, come to think of it, he's got a little bit of an extra handicap over him now, doesn't he?
Yeah, like, he basically had health regen no matter what. Like, that's just a bad place to fight Shang Tsung.
Oh, there's a hat in my chest. It'll iron out. Eat snake style, motherfucker.
It's also like they mentioned specifically in Shang Tsung's Conquest that the reason in that game he's throwing those 3D circle fireballs instead of his usual skulls is that he's actually using Liu Kang's fireball style.
Did they actually say that in
he
Conquest?
Has Liu's soul.
Did they say that in the fucking Conquest mode?
I'm pretty sure they do. That, like, obviously the reason Shang has always gone for stealing the souls of great fighters, and the reason, like, he wanted the best to be at the tournament so he could eat their souls is because then he gets their techniques and their strength. So, like, after killing Liu and stealing his soul, he's as strong as Liu, and he knows Liu's moves.
Strictly speaking, I mean, it might be tough to actually render a skull in the projectile with those early PS2 graphics.
Yeah, I'm sure that was like an excuse. Like, the meta, the real world reason is that they couldn't make it look like skulls. The same as the entire 3D era and MK9, they couldn't make Johnny's shadows look like shadows. He was trailing green mist when he'd fucking kick.
It's been so long since Red Shadows, man. I forget what they look like. Anyway. Now, come to think of it,
he doesn't... There were red shadows in X.
Were there red shadows in X?
Like, when he was low on health.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. What causes the shadows to be red is different in every fucking game.
Desperation. Sweat. Red Mountain Dew.
Yeah, basically. Johnny Cage, Code Red.
That stuff gives me bowel cramps. So around this time, actually, Shaolin Monks comes out roughly concurrent with Deception. I think it was in the space of a year.
They were doing their one game every year thing. Shaolin Monks came out the year after Deception, and Armageddon came out the year after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This.
So as far as, like, Deception goes, Kung Lao's barely really in it.
No, he's just straight up not. He doesn't get a mention or anything. He's just
he's an NPC.
He's
the five heroes who died at the Deadly Alliance's castle. Onaga raises them all from the dead and makes them basically revenants.
Yeah.
It's like everything in 9 and X is a repeat of something that already fucking happened in Deception. That's been always one of my biggest complaints about the whole kill everybody off the Sindel massacres. It's just a fucking repeat of DA and Deception. They already did that.
I do give them credit for actually trying to give them twisted personalities this time through, though, even if the material's not exactly original.
Well, yeah, they had actual cutscenes, so they had to, like, give them speaking lines and stuff. But yeah, like, so those 5 end up raised from the dead. They become Onaga's brainwashed bodyguards, and then because Shang Tsung is dead, Liu Kang's ghost is free. And instead of going off to the afterlife, it sticks around to help the good guys. And first it gives, like, Bo Rai Cho's army the spiritual buff that they need to beat an army of Tarkatans. And then it helps Ermac, because Ermac has turned good, because he met Kenshi in Deadly Alliance, and that whole thing happened. So Ermac and the ghost of Liu Kang together free the 5 brainwashed bodyguards by basically Onaga,
I've got to assume, though, that, like, Onaga brought them back to life and put them under and they just undid the spell because Ermac and Liu Kang don't have the ability to resurrect the dead.
No, Onaga, like, they weren't undead. Onaga just straight up brought them back, like, fully to life. They weren't, like, gray zombie skin or nothing.
No, they weren't revenants in the strictest sense of the term. But we're just
they were just a normal resurrection. You're alive again. And also mind control.
So
Ermac...
mind-controlled and mind-controlled dead. Similes, but not exactly the same. So
Ermac fights all 5 of them at the same time, which is the coolest Ermac has ever been. And ever will be, probably.
Yeah, talk to me when you beat up Shang Tsung and Kano at the same time, buddy. Sexy.
So while Ermac is basically keeping all 5 of them busy, Liu Kang's ghost is one at a time removing the mind control with his ghost powers.
That's more food for the Ermac perspective, but yeah, guy was a little bit OP.
So that's basically all Kung Lao does in Deception, is he's just there. He's kind of a damsel in distress.
And I don't believe he does a single thing in Armageddon. He's one of the people.
No.
He's one of the people that like got no bio or nothing. I don't believe.
Well, he's mentioned in Fujin's bio that basically when they're all getting ready for the big crater fight, Fujin has found out that Raiden has turned bad and brought Liu back as a zombie. So Fujin and Kung Lao go into the big battle specifically intending to shut down Dark Raiden and Zombie Liu.
Well, there you go. He has a little bit of something. But he's
and
not,
then in the opening cutscene, he demonstrates the idea that those floating combos are fucking canon. That is, seeing Baraka float, like, it doesn't even look good animation-wise. Why did they fucking do that?
If you're gonna set that rivalry up somehow,
Look, I like that it's Kung Lao fighting Baraka again.
That's probably...
But why are they floating?
And we can probably...
That wasn't necessary.
Look, man, pop-up attacks are canon. They've always been canon.
It just looks bad. Who looked at that and said, "That's okay. We're printing with that."
That was the MK Armageddon aerial combo system.
It was, yes.
They thought that they could be MVC. They were wrong.
But look, just because a gameplay element exists doesn't mean you need to put it in a cutscene.
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying.
I don't need it to be canon.
Well, probably in small part because of that. We do get Baraka at the opening for 9 with that hat in his noggin.
Yeah.
So
well, we should go back a little bit because the reason Armageddon had the floating combos mechanic is because Shaolin Monks had it. And like I said, Shaolin Monks came out between Deception and Armageddon.
Well, before we actually, you know what? I propose that we just finish off Armageddon right here.
All right. I
mean, he's just got a very run-of-the-mill stupid ending. We know how Armageddon ended.
Well, all of the endings in Armageddon are garbage, but like it really bothers me that people sometimes still point at Noob Saibot's Armageddon ending as though it's proof of anything. That like, see, look, he can turn good again. I'm like, this is an Armageddon ending. It doesn't fucking count.
Yeah, though people.
None of them do.
So Kung Lao time travels back thanks to a portal that opens because he beats Blaze in his ending, and he winds up hundreds of years in the distant past. And then he goes up to the great Kung Lao and goes, "Hey, I got this one, buddy." And he enters the tournament instead. And he actually beats Goro, becomes a legend, and so Liu Kang never, like, basically all the future events just wind up not happening.
Yeah, so Liu Kang, it says, as a result, Liu Kang never competed, and Kung Lao's rivalry with him never came to be. Which, by the way, this would be the first canon game that mentions them having a rivalry, because this is right after Shaolin Monks came out, and Shaolin Monks isn't fucking canon.
Well, it's some alternate universe of IQs like, I don't know, shafts of wheat. Oh god, now we have to talk about Shaolin Monks. At length. Because we're talking about one of the two main characters.
I like how, according to the game, when you beat Blaze, it's just supposed to give you power and make you a god. But in the endings, something different happens for every fucking person. Like, this does not make Kung Lao a god. It opens a time portal for him because I guess that's what he wants?
Don't think about it too hard. Look, I'm going to have you know that actually about 2 months ago, I reached out to Vogel on Twitter in private message, and I specifically told him a lot of people, myself included, were really kind of hard on you when Armageddon came out, and we were kids, and we really didn't understand how hard it could be and the pressures you were under, so if you saw any flack your way, I'm so sorry on behalf of the community. He didn't respond, but I hope that went some way towards solving any wounds that might have been present.
I don't, believe me, I do not blame John Vogel for any of the bad, because that man was saint enough to, after the game was already out, in his own time, I'm sure he did it for free, created all of those bios that went up on the website.
He didn't have to, but he did.
The man is a hero who is constantly shackled by the incompetence of the company around him. That's my opinion of John Vogel.
Love you, John. Thanks again. We're sorry we were arrogant, irritating, petulant children. But we've grown, we've learned, and we see the things you had to deal with. But Shaolin Monks now. Now, we're talking about a game that was actually handled by a professional comic writer.
Well, so it was written by Jim Kruger, the writer of Alex Ross's Justice miniseries. He hasn't done a lot of work outside of that book.
Could there be reasons
I'm
for
pretty
that?
sure they only got Kruger because Alex Ross went to art school in Chicago and knows some of the Midway artists.
Huh. So this was...
Yeah, that's how they got Alex Ross to do that cover art for Versus DC Universe. So I think
this was a favor for a friend.
Came to them recommended.
Okay. Huh.
But he doesn't have a particularly long list of works in his career, like in his I don't know what the comic book version of a filmography would be, but that's the word I'm looking for.
Comic bibliography?
His portfolio, I guess.
Bibliography? Oh.
That might be it. But yeah, he hasn't done a lot of stuff. So I don't know. And I'll be honest, like, if you were to hire someone now and say they're from the comic book industry, I would automatically assume they're going to be garbage. Because I don't think DC or Marvel has put out a single good book in the past 10 years.
I would dispute that. There's isolated ones. There's the odd one.
You know
that
what? I'll slightly take that back.
The problem is,
I mean, Grant Morrison still exists, and Jeff Johns' Green Lantern did end in the 2010s, and that was still good.
It's hit or miss with me.
In spite of the New 52 happening.
Grant Morrison's hit or miss with me. I kind of tuned out right around the 52 era. But Marvel's Immortal
I don't like all of Morrison's work, but I did like his Batman, and he was still writing Batman at the start of this decade.
It got a little bit crazy towards the end with his different organizations.
I mean, if it were up to me, Dick Grayson would still be Batman. Brought Bruce back.
Well, everyone loves that bit. But check out Immortal Hulk, actually. That's really good.
I have heard it's all right. I'm not a huge Hulk guy, but maybe.
Neither am I, but decent squicky body horror atmosphere. It's enjoyable.
Right.
Anyway. Oh yeah, and Darth Vader. The 2015 Darth Vader comic. Good stuff.
Those are Marvel, aren't they?
They are. Alright, so back into Kung Lao. The thing about Kruger's writing is it's terrible.
Well, so the thing is,
I've always wondered
they advertised the hiring of a comic book guy because comic book guys are supposedly really good at continuity, and they were trying to sell this as a move to ensure that this remake of MK2 would be true to the original lore and expand upon it. That's literally what the press releases said, that we hired a comic book writer to ensure that the continuity is strong.
Now,
and
do you
Jim
think...
Kruger proceeded to research absolutely nothing about Mortal Kombat.
Do we think that they were lying just to get people hyped up, or did Kruger just fuck them over?
I don't think he did it maliciously. I think they had expectations that he did not meet.
I think that his comic book approach to the lore was Crisis on Infinite Earths. As in, just start over. Do your own thing. Yeah, I'm actually not sure what he knew about MK, but he seemed to legitimately be under the belief that people could survive all the things you see in-game. It's the only way that "Are you okay?" scene makes any kind of sense.
Well, so there was this weird back and forth between the fans and the developers when the game came out about whether or not the fatalities, which are an actual plot point, were supposed to be taken as canon. Because you kill, like, the entire Outworld cast, except Melina, who is the only one who does die in the canon MK2.
Never gets old.
So you kill all of them. And the developers were like, well, no, those are only in there because it would be boring not to have fatalities. They're not actually part of the story. Except, it's like, the plot of the game is that Shang Tsung is tricking you into killing people so he can steal their souls and become strong enough to challenge Shao Kahn.
Just so turn a blind eye.
Are actively part of the main plot.
Just turn a blind eye. It's cool.
I don't see.
But how do you
really?
No,
it's baffling to me.
The incessant stupidity.
The dialogue obviously is constantly ridiculous. The part that really gets me though is the game's conception of a tournament. Like, we all know in the canon MK2 there was an actual, like, official tournament that they went to the arena and fought in as part of, like, it was a Mortal Kombat tournament, and if they won, then Shao Kahn would lose his claim to Earthrealm, and if they lost, then he'd take it in one, because they'd abolished the 10 in a row rule. But in this game, a tournament is go where I tell you and kill this guy, and you'll get a medallion.
There is no tournament in Shaolin Monks.
No, there's not. But like, the Shang who's pretending to be Raiden keeps telling them that they are in a tournament.
But they're not. And Shao Kahn makes a point of saying at the end that their presence is unwanted, uninvited.
Yeah, it's that dialogue. It's literally the opposite of the plot of MK2. Those two sentences completely negate any concept of this being a remake of MK2.
Are we sure this game was not written by Rian Johnson?
It's almost like it's bad on purpose.
Hey, look. We've said it 1,000 times before, but it always bears saying again. The game is so much fun, and the atmosphere and the environments are wonderful.
Look, Shaolin Monks is my favorite game in the series, gameplay-wise. Because I love beat-em-ups. And it's so good a beat-em-up. But, and like, look, the cutscenes, they aren't bad in a way that I hate. They're like, funny bad. Like, they're the good kind of bad. So honestly, like, I don't hate Shaolin Monks.
It's 50-50 for me. I played through it more times than I can count or remember.
Like,
but I distinctly recall zoning out every time someone talked.
It's so hilarious. Like, they'll be walking through the living forest, and Liu Kang is like 10 feet away, and Raiden comes up behind Kung Lao and goes, "You know, I think something's wrong with Liu Kang. Keep your eye on him." And then he immediately goes over to Liu Kang and he's like, I think something's wrong with Kung Lao. Keep an eye on him. They're right there!
But to focus a bit, this is, as we were alluding to, the game that made Kung Lao into a rabid jackass.
That's true. This is the origin of all of the things we don't really like about the modern characterization of Kung Lao.
And it was
look,
a real shock at the time, because following on the heels of MK4, pardon me.
Yeah, the whole, this cut across your chest is ceremonial, I don't really want to fight, I want peace, that Kung Lao?
We were used to seeing that guy. Or we
not that far away from when Shaolin Monks was made.
There's nearly 8 years there or so, thereabouts.
I suppose, yeah.
It had been a while, but we were still...
Shaolin Monks was 2005, MK4 Gold was 98.
Yeah.
Maybe 99? No, it had to be 99, because that's when the Dreamcast came out.
99. Okay, so like 5 or 6 years. I don't know. 6... Actually, yeah.
Yeah, because the Dreamcast's whole thing was it releases on 9/9/99.
Yeah. Alright, so 6 or 7 years there, and in addition to MK4 Pacifist Kung Lao, we had, like, Jeff Roven Pacifist Kung Lao in the novel, and kind of generally easygoing, but, like, stoic Kung Lao in the Malibu comics. So, the entire notion of him being all competitive and entitled and a little bit whiny was just, where the fuck did that come from?
Even if you're going by just MK2, like if that's the only game you're looking at when you make your remake, which it had to be, because one of my big complaints about Shaolin Monks is that they made no effort to set up MK3 at all. Like, Cabal is in there, but there's no hint of anything that's going to happen in 3.
He's just in a cage for some reason.
Like, there's no teasing that Sindel is going to be resurrected. There's no, like, obviously killing off all the villains who are in MK3.
Well, Sub's on the run from his clan already for reasons, but...
He does kind of hint. He doesn't mention anything specific to the Cyber Initiative, but he does kind of hint that he's...
Like, on the
like,
lam.
the clan didn't allow him to come to Outworld, so he didn't listen to them, and now it's a problem. Is kind of...
Like, that was the first time where I think that they tried
there is a line about him learning not to trust those he once called friends or something.
Yeah, like, at the time, that also struck me as really weird. It still kind of does, because I've always pictured there being, like, a gap of a year or something, or at least several months, between the end of 2 and the start of 3.
Right, but so Kruger clearly didn't look at the sequel to the game he was remaking at all. He didn't have anything set up. So if you're just looking at 2 and you're like extrapolating from that to create new characterizations, the Kung Lao in 2 is clearly the strong silent type. Like, his whole thing is that Clint Eastwood man with no name, tip the hat real low look. How do you turn that into, like, a whiny teenager?
And it would be one thing had they actually shown us the kind of relationship that they have, which is one thing that I really like about 11, at least in the story mode, is that they do seem like they're friends who have a rivalry. Not like whiny bitch with a chip on his shoulder, wishes he were the other guy, which is how Shaolin Monks kind of handled it.
Yeah, like, I have said many times that I don't hate the idea of a rivalry between the two over which one got to go to the tournament. I think there have been times where, they played it more subtle, and it actually worked as a good characterization of Kung Lao, like some moments in 9, and all of his intros in X are pretty good. It's too often over the top, and it too often makes him an unlikable character.
I'm grateful that it established...
The problem isn't the idea, the problem is the lack of subtlety.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I'm grateful that they established a relationship.
They write him clumsily and ham-handedly.
There was no real relationship between the two of them, apart from being two guys from the same temple to start off with. apart from like what the MK2 comic showed us. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, hi, and that's about it. So
Yeah,
to actually
and
build
I have
something
said,
between them is nice.
yeah, and as I have said before, I feel like that jealousy thing and the going to the tournament in disguise as a masked guard, like I like that. But once you get to MK2, the rivalry should fall by the wayside because the bigger concern is revenge for what happened to the temple. Like the conflict between them once you get to MK2 should no longer be about who's the better fighter. It should be about Kung Lao wants to kill them and Liu Kang still believes killing is wrong. That should be the personality clash.
Sadly, they never capitalized on it.
No, they've never done that one.
I mean, the guy wears a razor hat. He's got to be ready to decapitate people left and right.
Yeah, and obviously, like, he's the emotional one. He's the hot-headed one. Anger issues. He's a little too wrath.
And Liu is the one who kind of lives in that quiet and serene place until MK2, when he's kind of also on a mission to, like, get revenge.
You know what? That's the perfect example. Kung Lao is Raphael and Liu Kang is Leonardo. That's how it should be, anyway.
Oh, God. Sonya does machines. Anyway.
Johnny is a party dude.
I don't think it even needed to be said.
And obviously Raiden is Splinter. It's fucking perfect. Goddamn.
Yikes.
I mean, it's not like Sonya's not really Donatello, but all the others are perfect.
Does this make Cabal Casey Jones? Who the fuck is Jax?
I think Jax is the Donatello.
Yeah, probably.
Like, Sonya's the April, I guess.
Sonya's the April? Oh, that's not cool.
Well, she does have to be rescued in MK2.
You know what? Like, Liu did teach her a thing or two with the upward bike kick, and April did learn a thing or two. I don't like this I don't like this implication. Let's edit it out. This is terrible. I don't like this.
I like this.
This is awful.
MK1 is just the Ninja Turtles. I like it.
I refuse to believe that, like, Kung Lao has more of a place in the turtle hierarchy than Sonya does. That's sad to me.
Well, I mean, she is kind of the Raph too.
See, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like about the turtles as personality archetypes is that it always works, but it doesn't always, like, if you have a cast of more than 4 or 5, then people start shifting or becoming half this character, half that character.
I think that's what Smoke's problem is. He's half Kung Lao, but we've already got a Kung Lao. Anyway.
Well, that's why the robot thing is...
Yeah. Oh, great. Another time.
Okay.
But, is that all we can really say about, like, okay, plot concerns outside and everyone's flagrant stupidity. We gotta talk about the rabbit.
We do have to talk about the rabbit.
we can't let discussion of Shaolin Monks pass by without talking about the rabbit and how great the rabbit was.
Quite frankly, all of Kung Lao's best fatalities kind of come from Shaolin Monks. I mean, except for the straight down the middle cut, which was already in MK2.
Stone Cold Classic.
Like everything else he's done was either born in Shaolin Monks or inspired by.
You probably remember them better than I do at the moment, but I really remember that rabbit, and that rabbit fatality is never going to leave.
He had 2 versions of the rabbit. He had one where he'd pull it out, and then he'd toss it to you and let you pet it, and then it would bite your head off. And then he had a second one where he'd pull it out, and then he'd start whacking you with it. Like he'd hold it by the ears and use it as a club.
Okay, seriously, MK11 guys. If anyone out there's listening, I know you're gonna want to add more fatalities down the road. So, come on. You gotta do it. I'll pick up MK11 before Spawn comes out if that fatality gets put back in there. That'd be so wonderful.
You know, there was I'm not sure if it was legit or not, but there was like a data mine that suggested friendships would be coming in the future.
Yes. The door is open.
So, yeah, Kung Lao's better be the rabbit.
Oh, and I wouldn't get to see that. Like, what else did he have in there, fatality-wise?
See, he had one where he'd throw the hat to chop off your arms, and then he'd let you start to run away, and then as you're getting away, he'd throw it and take your head. He had one
Not the
where
most original, but okay.
He would kick you up into the air, jump up, and make a bunch of slashes with the hat in his hand, and then he'd land, and just blood and parts would rain down on him from the sky.
I remember that one now. That was kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, he had the Nuts First Buzzsaw, which came back in 9.
Yep. You know, as painful as that one is to behold, it still doesn't manage to make my list of favorites. It's not even close.
I like it.
That's always been my, this is a Shaolin Monk, really moment? Like, I can deal with the rabbit clubbing because that's just silliness for the sake of silliness. If you've got a hat with a razor on it and you're a Shaolin Monk, I don't know. I have trouble with the groin dragging. That's just... That's something that Noob Saibot would be doing. Alright, but many people out there would agree. I'm analyzing it a bit too much. That's kind of
the ongoing joke of Kung Lao fatalities is look at this pacifist monk turn people into, like, gruesome works of art. Like, he's bizarrely creative about how he kills people. There's something wrong with the boy.
Fucking banana splits and flowers with heads at their centers. Guy's got more than a few issues.
I have questions about like how the Shaolin training that he went through. Where did it go wrong?
Did Sun Tzu say something about the beauty of war, in addition to it being an art? Because I could subscribe to that. Maybe Kung Lao took it very literally, and he wanted to make killing a true art form, like with sculptures and shit.
Well, it always reminds me of that one Darius had in Deception, where he'd rearrange your limbs as if he's creating a sculpture out of you, and then he'd step back and put his hand on his chin and go, yeah, I like it. Like, critiquing his work.
Doesn't he kick it over afterwards?
Like that's the vibe Kung Lao's fatalities give, that he's also, like, he's doing this shit on purpose.
Oh, God. Do we have anything more to say about the personality of Kung Lao in particular in Shaolin Monks?
Well,
apart from "Are you okay?" Which
yeah, yes. Ask the man who's been stabbed through the head and then set on fire.
Still not the dumbest moment in all of Mortal Kombat. I think that 9 fixed some of that for me. That's like number 5 or something now for me, I think.
Maybe.
It's up there. Still pretty goddamn stupid, but the entertaining kind of stupid. Did he really have anything apart from just being a general asshole?
Well, I mean, there's this weird scene after you beat Baraka, where you see, like, the ghost of Great Kung Lao get into a fight with another ghost who's implied to be the ancestor of Liu Kang, as if this rivalry is generational.
Oh, right, that.
And that, I could never make sense of that scene.
Makes about as much sense as Kenshi's blind ancestor from 10.
Yeah.
So I guess that's possibly it for the entirety of the original series.
Yeah. Well, actually, the thing about the ancestor raises a good point that I don't know if the confusion about whether or not Liu Kang and Kung Lao are related.
We did discuss that earlier on.
Did we? Okay.
We did. That I recall.
Right. So at least Shaolin monks got the fact that they are not descended from the same person correct.
Any little gimme you want to give the game, I'm okay with. Make it happier for me as a memory. It's nice to look back on things and realize they were not all terrible.
I mean, they do have the warm and fuzzy happy ending where they both defeat Shao Kahn as a team, and then Johnny's like, so who won? And Liu is like, Kung Lao won, and Kung Lao's like, no, Liu Kang won. You know, that they're both they've gotten over it.
Y'all silly. But he never did. He never did.
No, he didn't.
Or rather, we just keep on seeing times where he still had it going on. But that is it. That is the last of the original timeline, I believe.
It is. Although, like Shaolin Monks, not exactly the original timeline, clearly off in its own pocket dimension.
Yeah, but seeing as how he doesn't show up in MKDC...
So it's interesting. Kung Lao almost made it into versus DC Universe. Like, they had DLC planned for that game.
Him and Harley Quinn and Quan Chi and who the hell else? I don't care.
Yeah, I don't remember who the fourth one was going to be. Maybe Aquaman. No, wait. I think it might have been Robin.
Yeah, it was Robin. I remember now.
Okay. So yeah, he almost made it in. But once again, sort of... Because versus DC's roster was chosen based on, quote-unquote, the most iconic MK characters. So, which basically meant the ones who had been in the movie and also Baraka.
His life is a series of also-ran incidents. Shame.
So...
It really is time for him to start showing up in more media.
It would be nice.
You know, we always make that argument about, like, lesser characters, like Reiko, and take your pick of an MK4 character cast member. But the fact that we've had so little Kung Lao media appearance kind of really says something about how accurate that is. And that's, like, number one of the B-list characters.
Yeah, so I mean, on the subject of putting him in more adaptations, he is supposed to be in the new movie. But the last draft that I remember seeing of the script, and I don't know if this has changed since then, this is just the last one I heard about, he is characterized as having taken a vow of silence, because I guess even that writer couldn't figure out what to do with him.
It will be so hilarious to me if this is the best Kung Lao we've ever had.
I mean, it would be more true to MK2, I guess.
Oh, we're terrible people. A vow of silence. Interesting.
So he's really just there to throw the hat and stand in the background.
A series of missed opportunities. The legacy continues.
So, MK9.
MK9.
The NRS timeline.
Alright. Before we do anything else, before we start talking about his role in the story, I don't want to overlook this. His arcade ending. I want to get that out of the way.
Alright, yeah.
Holy shit, do I have a problem with him being the reincarnation of the Great Kung Lao. This bullshit angle that they're trying to push. It's
like, just
so...
simple math, it's not possible.
Like, I looked this up.
A reincarnation of someone...
By any definition...
the same soul reborn in a new body.
By any definition.
But Shang Tsung has Great Kung Lao's soul.
I looked this up, and nowhere in any of the 3 games could I find any reference to Shang specifically not taking the Great Kung Lao's soul. It still happens. It's always happened.
It does.
So what the fuck?
And
they're trying to push this in MK11 too, with Shao Kahn going, you're his...
MK11, it's more... It actually goes against the theory that he could be the reincarnation, because if you have a ghost hanging over you, that's not your own soul, that's somebody else's soul. Like, you can't... 2 souls in one body is not what reincarnation is.
And yet Shao Kahn also has dialogue against him, where Kung Lao says, I am more than just the inheritor of the Great Kung Lao's legacy. And Shao Kahn goes, you are his reincarnation.
Yeah, there's that one intro.
The whole fucking...
But then there's a
maybe
whole
that's
bunch
just,
of
like...
other intros that specifically say, like, I am even greater than the Great Kung... Like, he's specifically talking about his ancestor as though he is a separate person. And, you know, egotistically claiming to be better than him. So, I mean, first of all, the intros in 11 are so goddamn non-canon. Like, how many people claim to have killed King Jared?
We need to, like, whip up some sort of I shot JR montage. Seriously. But yes, it's
you can't...
It's best to take it as idiocy.
MK11 is the least canon anything has ever been.
We can say that because, remember, this is the same game which tries to claim that everything is canon. And canon is what you make of it.
Also, it ends in a reboot, so it negates its own self at the end of the story mode.
It just is. It's a singularity. It's a black hole that made itself.
Nothing you see in the intros, like, even if they were canon, they still don't matter, because story mode ends with all of it being erased.
See, I can't really take that angle, because if I follow that logic, none of this timeline matters at all.
Well, like, yeah.
See, you say that...
I'm 100% there.
I don't disagree with the reasoning, but, like, that's, to me, that's as good as saying that none of this was ever worth playing or worth any of our time, and there were some good things that still happened along the way.
I mean,
so,
look, worth
it's
playing.
It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Maybe the real retcon was the...
And for me, the journey was some good gameplay, which has nothing to do with a story.
Maybe the retcon was the friends we made along the way. How about that?
There you go. But yeah, like, I have never liked any of this. For me, I feel the same way about this that I do about, like, Star Wars, where I'll say, look, the original trilogy and The Mandalorian are the only things that are canon. The prequels didn't happen, the sequels didn't happen. That's how I feel about Star Wars, and that's, like, Mortal Kombat is like, no, the games are one to Armageddon.
But you know what they say, Razor?
Chronologically, it'd be mythologies to Armageddon. Like, that's the real Mortal Kombat. None of this matters.
But you know what they say, Razor?
What do they say?
Willful indulgence of headcanon is a pathway to many abilities some would consider to be unnatural.
You know what?
You can't dismiss the PT.
If you knew the power of the dark side.
You can't dismiss the PT because Ian McDiarmid. There, I said it. Alright, no, but seriously, back on track. So we've established that the fucking Nine's ending where they try to claim that he's the reincarnation doesn't make any goddamn sense. Now I think we can move on. Or I'm fine with moving on.
Yeah, no, it's not possible. It's literally not possible. You can't be the reincarnation of someone if their soul's location is already known.
It's not possible. It's dumb. It contravenes events that we've known since MK1. But
as far as the ghost of Great Kung Lao being a special move in 11, that's okay because 11 is after Shang Tsung died.
Yeah,
the souls are now set free.
It's around there somewhere.
Right, but Kung Lao was born before that, so he cannot possibly have the soul of Great Kung Lao from birth.
Yeah.
He can't be a reincarnation. That's not how that works. It's not how any of this works.
I'm not even a fan of, like, him having the soul as a mechanism in gameplay, to be honest. Because I kind of like the notion of passing over. What are you doing, just dicking around? Are you a Force ghost? I blame Star Wars.
Well, I mean, Liu Kang did it. You know, if you're spiritually strong enough, you can resist the pull of the afterlife and stick around to help out your friends or family or unfinished business.
I guess, but did Great Kung Lao have unfinished business?
He might want to help save Earthrealm from Outworld still.
Finland.
I mean, Goro's not in 11, so it's not revenge, but...
No, he died of profound sadness.
Hmm. He wasted away depressed on his chair.
I have my arms back, but they can't even hold my own shame. The burden. Puts on black lipstick and a Cure record.
I can't like the way the lore sits. There's nothing saying that's not true. It's Goro sat down in his chair and just starved to death on purpose. That's what that stage tells us.
Oh, God. So, we continue to get Kung Lao the douchebag, but a little bit toned down. Kinda.
He was much more tolerable, and there was more of a friendly to the friendly rivalry in 9.
This is when the quips started. Him actually being casually funny.
Yeah, because like in Shaolin Monks, one of their attempts at a running joke was that whenever they talk about katana, Kung Lao would be like, "We don't have time to save your girlfriend," and Liu would be like, "She's not my girlfriend."
No, bro.
And in 9, there's a single line of that where he's like, "Something, something, your girlfriend," and Liu just goes, "Notice how I'm ignoring you." It was much better written, much more not the ham hands.
Well, MK9 did a lot of things that we don't particularly enjoy, and our listeners know that by now. But the characterization on Maintain, for the most part, was fairly strong. Fairly.
Yeah, no, it's the problem with 9 isn't really how the Melina maybe somewhat.
We'll get to that. To a degree.
Yeah, like as far as like most characters, their personalities were on point. The problem was mostly just the things that happened to them.
Agreed.
For some characters, 9 was the first game where they were given a personality.
Mm-hmm. I particularly liked the line, "What does he have that I don't? A personality like sandpaper." What was it again? A personality which is not
that
like
is
sandpaper.
Not like sandpaper.
That was good. That really, really had me going. I think I paused the game at that point.
Mm-hmm. That was a good.
That was wholesome.
But again, things that happened to the characters, Kung Lao. So there's this weird bit of attempted drama or conflict. Like the whole of MK9 is sort of this slow burn of Liu Kang getting mad at Raiden for choices that he's making that to try and change the future that are mistakes. The first real hint of that is that at the start of MK2, Raiden is going, "You won the last tournament, and it didn't change my visions, so maybe you're not supposed to win." So he's, like, avoiding putting Liu into the fight the entire second tournament. And Liu's like, "Come on, man, I can take him."
And of course, Kung Lao,
so it gets,
being Kung Lao that we know now.
Yeah, so it gets to the arena at the end, and he's like, "Oh, it's not Liu Kang. All right, Kung Lao, you're up."
I mean, you talk about it every 5 minutes. May as well give you your shot.
Kung Lao's super happy to have his chance finally. And by the way, right before this chapter, Kung Lao has beaten Goro in a fight and doesn't react at all. It's like he's completely forgotten his entire motivation to avenge his ancestor.
Oh,
that is
Christ.
One of my biggest complaints about the game.
Oh my god.
It's like that scene in the script just read, Kung Lao versus some Outworlder, and then they shoved Goro in later.
Profound sadness.
Right, and we talked about this in the Goro episode, how honestly they should have just kept to him faking his own death at the end of the first tournament to hide his shame, instead of bringing him back all throughout 9 to job over and over again. Because that just hurt his image. But for Kung Lao, it's just so weird to have him fight the guy who's like, his whole life, his dream has been to fight Goro, and he finally does it and beats him and doesn't seem to care.
I think I've said this before. My experience with MK9's story was like emerging into a world where I don't speak the same language that everyone else is. It's like that episode of The Outer Limits that ends with like a guy looking at a book and there's a picture of a dog and he's pointing at it and he's telling himself Wednesday, Wednesday, Wednesday. That's how I felt the further on I got through MK9's story.
Yeah.
Started getting really bad by MK2, and by 3 I just didn't know what I was witnessing or where I was or even what my blood alcohol level was, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't even drinking. I might have forgotten my own name.
I mean, there is a word for that as a medical condition. Aphasia. So anyway, yeah, they go to the arena, and Raiden finally lets Kung Lao fight the bosses and have his turn to be the big hero. And Kung Lao surprisingly beats
Kintaro.
Shang Tsung and Quan Chi at the same time, which is the exact opposite of what happened to Deadly Alliance.
He beats Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and then I think he takes out Kintaro, right?
He does beat Kintaro too. It's weird to me because, I mean, obviously, like, it's not wise to put a lot of stock in the concept of, like, Dragon Ball style power levels when you're trying to write a story because that gets in the way.
You know,
But Kung Lao really shouldn't be able to do this. Like, the whole kind of point of his character that they've been pushing for several games is that he's not this good.
Okay.
That he wants to be, that he wishes he was. And this is a Kung Lao who hasn't trained with Bo Raicho.
Problem is,
who doesn't do the whirlwind kick.
This isn't even a problem with Kung Lao's story or the depiction of his strength. This is someone deciding that endurance rounds had to be a regular part of the story. Because this happens here. This happens with Smoke fighting Shang Tsung and Kano. This happens with Cyber Sub-Zero fighting Goro and Kintaro. And every time it happens, you just have to ignore it. Because it doesn't make sense. It can't make sense.
Yeah, I think the thing that's weird about... Well, first I should mention, speaking of the whirlwind kick, there was some data mining of 9 that found that the whirlwind kick is in Kung Lao's moveset, but that the developers removed it or disabled it so you can't use it because someone must have remembered, oh yeah, he's not supposed to learn that until Deadly Alliance. And that is the only example in the entire game of somebody remembering the order things are supposed to happen in. Because, like, obviously Quan Chi has the fucking tattoos, you know, like 10 years before he's supposed to get them.
You know, you say that, but maybe they was just too overpowered. They're like, he could do without
It might have just been a balance thing. I'd like to think.
I get where you're coming from, though. I'm right there with you.
Well, there's a weird thing in the new timeline where... Okay, so in the old timeline, Liu Kang was the only one who trained with Bo Raicho, and then Kung Lao trained with him in Deadly Alliance. In the new timeline, Bo Raicho just kind of lives at the Shaolin Temple and trained them both. So I don't know. Whatever.
Well, like, we know from Shujinko that Bo Raicho generally teaches all the pupils in a kind of Yoda and the Younglings way.
Well, that was at that village he was living at. Like, the whole... Like, he's not really a member of the Shaolin or the White Lotus. He has his own dojo, and you have to go there and find him and ask him to teach you. Normally. They I guess, quote-unquote, simplified it in the new timeline.
That could be said for a lot of things.
But anyway, so Kung Lao does beat the Deadly Alliance. They call themselves that.
I think that that's the main reason that fight is there. It's just for that joke.
Well,
for that little reference. That cute little reference.
When 9 came out, people were struggling to understand how certain changes could have been made to the timeline that Raiden had nothing to do with, that couldn't have been his medallion's fault. And they kept saying things like, somehow either Shinnok or Quan Chi must know the past timeline and also be changing things. And not be true, but that's one of the theories that was flying around out there. And I think him throwing around terms like Deadly Alliance during MK2 kind of lended some credence to that untrue theory.
We've reached the point where I just stopped trying to rationalize everything.
Yeah, you just have to admit that 9 doesn't make sense and never did.
Sometimes they just like cracking jokes because they got jokes, and that's
Like,
all there is to it.
I understand that desire, that need to bring order to the chaos. Some people wanted to like 9 so much that they would, headcanon things that made it better than it was. And for me, it was just never good.
As far as it goes, I'm willing to take new bits of backstory and information that don't fuck with previous established facts and retroactively
that's how I've always
them.
felt. Like,
to me, Smoke's name is now and it's forever going to be Tomas. And I'm
yeah,
fine with that.
Yeah, like,
That's
I like
great.
things like that. Like, a retcon... There are two different kinds of retcon. There's the kind that just tells you new stuff you didn't know. And there's the kind that contradicts and replaces stuff you did know. One of these is a good thing, and the other is always fucking stupid.
Speaking of fucking stupid, so Kung Lao beats Kintaro, and he turns around. See?
And
I did it! You didn't know what I could do!
Yeah, he's like showboating and taking a bow, and he's like playing it up for the crowd because the Outworld crowd is booing him.
Suck it, bitches. You know you love it. Oh,
and then all of a sudden, Shao Kahn is standing right behind him and snaps his neck.
See, he was about.
Here's the thing:
he was about to make a hat trick joke. That's what it was. Khan saw it coming, and he was like, "Nope."
Raiden is looking in the direction towards Shao Kahn's throne. He should have seen him walking up.
Maybe he's coming to give him a benediction. Oh God, the neck's not supposed to bend that way.
And it's interesting because for this one brief moment after Kung Lao's death, Raiden suddenly remembers, oh yeah, I'm not a pussy. Because his whole reason for not saving Sub-Zero from the Cybers is that he was afraid of Shao Kahn. He suddenly remembers where his balls are for 5 seconds, and then Liu Kang attacks Shao Kahn before he can.
Convenience and plot. I'll give this scene that, though. That was the moment where I was like, wow, they're really not fucking around with the changes this time through. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it's ironic. Like, if I were to set out, if my goal were to create a new timeline where things happen different on purpose, one of the things I would probably do is let Kung Lao win a tournament. Not so much kill him off and then let Liu Kang get his 3 in a row again.
There's something to be said for the surprise kill. And in this scenario, I think it worked pretty well.
I think it was alright, because again, Kung Lao has this feel of being an expendable character, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think that's...
I mean, again, it's unfortunate that he has to lose development for the sake of everyone else who's around and who's preferred.
Yeah.
But I can't look at 9 and say the game used him poorly, completely. Not completely. It made him enjoyable, fun, and less of a jackass way. Gave him his moment of glory, and then surprised us with what it did to him. And, in terms of gameplay, he was a huge, broken-ass, busted favorite. Like, I wish that I could have the experience, in terms of gameplay, with MK9, kind of, that I had growing up with Ultimate and 2. Because to be able to come into 9 from a gameplay perspective, and never having played the like of those characters before, I can't imagine how fun that must have been for a lot of people out there. I'm jealous. Anyway.
I mean, he does show up again towards the end of the game as a revenant in Quan Chi's employ.
Yes.
Which brings up the question of, like... So obviously the game tries to tell us how Quan Chi got his hands on all of these souls. And it says that, like, during the invasion, anybody who dies, somehow their soul goes to Shao Kahn, and Shao Kahn sold them to Quan Chi.
The problem with this
Kung Lao died before the invasion.
Kung Lao died before the invasion. There's a little thing called Nightwolf.
Yeah, there's this whole, well, in the old timeline, it was explicit that only sinner souls could go to hell. And Nightwolf in Deception was specifically established as being so pure of heart that he can't go there unless he absorbs other people's sins first. That never actually is mentioned one time in 9X or 11. It doesn't seem to be a rule that exists in the new timeline. Which is unfortunate because it kind of defeats the whole concept of, like, what hell is. You know, that it's the afterlife for bad people. It's not just a place you go on vacation. It's not just another realm that you visit. But Kung Lao, like, I mean, he is guilty of sins like pride and wrath, somewhat.
All those people he turned into sculptures.
Envy.
The hat.
Like, Kung Lao, you could make an argument that he was, like, a good person, but not so good that he can't be taken to hell against his will.
If you're gonna drag someone by the groin first over a razor hat and crack them in two...
yeah, there is that.
Maybe he did that behind the scenes to a Tarkatan, in which case he's earned his place.
I don't know, it's so contrived. Like, the entire concept of all those good guys going to hell is Nine's big twist to set up a better version of MK4. You know, like, to give Shinnok, oh no, he's got all the good guys on it, you know, and again, they already did this with Onaga's fucking bodyguards. It's not a new twist, like, they just did it more.
How about they're just dead, and that's good enough for me? Anyway. So now's about the time when we start talking about Kung Lao and Mortal Kombat X, and the first question that always comes to my mind is, why is he even there?
Yeah.
It's for gameplay purposes. No other reason.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Lao in 9 was kind of broken. Like, he was at least notoriously high tier, and they were... It's weird to try and, like, honor tournament legacy when you change the moveset. I don't understand that.
Like, he started getting some interesting stuff around that time, what? Like, because 9 was basically MK2 Kung Lao Plus, with an orbiting hat, I think. But 10...
9 plays... It's really its own animal, I feel like, as far as, like, being the first game that really made it unique for every character, and put a lot more character into the normals, where, like, you don't have to do a special move input to use your character's superpowers. They're actually part of the combos, too.
Yeah, there's that.
So, and
they also started like making his teleports a little bit more unpredictable.
And look, like, Lao does play fairly similar in X to the way he did in 9. At least one of his variations does. And I played Lao a lot in 9, and I played him quite a bit in X. He wasn't my main in X, but I played him often enough because I enjoyed how he played. And X did do one thing that I don't think 9 really had. It really went in on the Ip Man punches, the like rapid machine gun punches. That kind of became a part of his moveset as a character in X.
He had a little bit of that in 9 too, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
yeah, like a little bit. He did have, I think, like one string that would kind of machine gun gut punches, but like his throw in X really emphasized it.
And that carried over to 11 as well.
Yeah. So, like, I'm not... As a player, I'm not sad to see him in X, but... Story-wise, he doesn't do jack shit.
Yeah, in terms of plot, there's absolutely no reason.
Like, story-wise, he shows up literally as many times as, like, Rain does, and Rain is an NPC.
Rain actually has more to do.
Yeah, no, Rain has a bunch of dialogue. Like, Rain has the part in story mode of an actual character. They just refuse to make him one.
Fucking weird.
But, like, Kung Lao has as big a part as Sindel. And Sindel's not playable. Kung Lao's playable. I don't understand.
Sindel at least like dangled someone over the ledge.
The other weird thing about it, the thing that really bothers me, is that they gave Jin that fucking chakram. Why give Jin a move like the hat if Lao's gonna be in the game anyway? It's not even part of Jin's real kit. Jin's gimmick is that he's an archer. He has that staff bow.
If you've got to give your character 3 different types of weapons, odds are you don't know what you're designing.
It's...
like, I say that for, like, Jin and Takeda.
Yeah, Takeda has way too much gear. Like,
to some extent,
he already has a main gimmick. He has the whips. There's no reason he needs to also have those fucking lightsabers and a teleport punch, an exploding kunai. Just do the one thing. Do the one thing really well.
Oh, like a bunch of G.I. Joes with extra accessories. I do, however, enjoy Kung Lao's dialogue.
Yeah, that is the one positive thing. Like, of all of the games where Kung Lao has the Shaolin Monks type personality, X is the one where he sounds most grown up, which is funny because it's not canon. Because those are all old man Lao intros, the non-canon costume of what if he had been unrevenanted like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Jax were.
You've got to wonder if that was a plan at some point. Just do a total 180 and bring everyone back, and who knows?
I don't know. I think they really just kind of wanted to keep the spoiler under wraps of who would come back and who wouldn't, so they just designed comeback costumes for everybody.
Having the cake and eating it too.
I mean, I'm glad they're in there, and I don't really have an opinion over whether it matters which one is the primary and which one is the alternate. I don't think there's any reason to care about that story-wise. Because, I mean, if you unlock all the costumes, who cares which one's first in the list? But, like, I do kind of understand where people are coming from if they felt swerved by it, like if they really wanted their character to come back from the dead, and that's one of the ones that stayed a revenant. It is kind of pulling the rug under your feet.
It just, there were so many people who I think that actually could have been in 11 on the main, been in X on the main roster and served a purpose in there as well. And like Rain was one of them. Tanya could have been main roster too for everything that she did in the story, but no, gameplay is now a penultimate consideration, and there's got to be some sort of perspective there for the most popular characters, and that's why Kung Lao's in there.
I guess. I don't know. I just feel like they had a spot, and they're like, well, which Revenant do we put in the spot? Because obviously Liu Kang and Kitana are the ones with actual story. And, you know, this spot could go to any of the filler guys. Which one is it going to be? And they picked Lao because of I'm pretty sure, the tournament legacy. You know, if it were up to me to pick, of course I'm going to say Smoke.
Well, yes. But not everyone.
I mean, alternatively, you could have written more dialogue for Kung Lao. You could have had him actually do shit.
Not everyone are men of class and taste, just you and I.
But yeah, he's just there. You know, the one thing I will say about having Lao be playable is that non-canon though it is, his arcade ending does prove that when someone says, "Oh, now that Quan Chi's dead, there's no way to bring the Revenants back," was fucking bullshit.
He just meditated himself back, didn't he?
Yeah, he just literally is not think bad thoughts. Just don't. It's literally like coming back from the dark side of the Sith, man. Just try hard to not be an asshole. That's all it takes.
Let me go look this up, because I completely forgot about this.
And I do think it's funny that out of all of the Revenants, it's Kung Lao that would figure that out. Because this is, after all, New Timeline Shaolin Monksy Kung Lao, who is kind not the meditative pacifist type. It's him, not Nightwolf, that figures out if you just be peaceful, you'll unrevenant.
So Kung Jin actually helps him out.
Yeah, he's basically like, I refuse to believe that my cousin is that far gone. And he actually puts in the work. And nobody else among the heroes, and you'll see this in 11 story mode especially, none of them even consider that. They're all just like, nope, whatever Liu Kang was when he was alive, he's gone now.
I'm not sure that he's not a revenant anymore, but the ending seems to imply that he has... that he gets his free will back. He controls his inner demons. He's compromised but not lost.
Yeah, it's basically like there's this, taintedness within him that he has to struggle with, but the art does show him looking like primary costume old man Lao, which I'm not sure is actually, correct.
God, who knows?
Because the art is weird in the endings. I don't think the art matches the text in several of them in X. Like, Liu Kang's MKX ending is basically what actually canon happens. Shinnok is dead, so Liu Kang becomes the new ruler of the Netherrealm. But in the artwork, it's human Liu Kang.
Yeah, there were a few instances of that I remember now.
I think the art in the endings is just wrong.
Yeah, he does look pretty much more or less human here. Oh well. Not that it matters. He dead.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about the Revenants, though, is they're not dead anymore. They just look... The gray skin and the glowing veins doesn't represent undeadness. It represents Quan Chi's mind control. Because, they have physical bodies and they can die again. So they're basically just alive.
Sort of, I guess.
What is the real biological difference between unlive and undead?
Something's flowing through the veins that may not be blood? I don't know.
I mean, they use the term, since MK1, they use the term reincarnated for Scorpion. He's not dead anymore. His soul came back in a full flesh and blood body. It's just that body happens to have weird spawn powers.
I don't know.
Because that's why Scorpion kept his powers when he came back in X.
I would actually consider them to be an alternate form of life as opposed to just alive or dead. Undead, perhaps, is the right term for it.
Well, I don't know. It's what I'm trying to get across is this weird, fuzzy, vague thing.
Glowy thing going on with their skin and their veins. I don't know.
Because you look at what happens when Raiden frees them, and the gray skin and glowing veins kind of flakes off of Jax and Sub-Zero. But Scorpion never had that in the first place. His eyes just turned from white to human.
Well, yeah, no. We all know that they're, completely different. Scorpions...
Yeah.
Scorpion
is a specter, which is a kind of undead that is... the Revenants are just, the default model.
I mean, there are lots of different types of dead things running around. There's shambling skeletons. There's Oni. There's lots of things that are lurking around in the afterlife that are
Because
by
Draman
definition...
wasn't born a demon, he became an Oni, so apparently that's something an undead can be too.
If you're wandering around in the Netherrealm, which is supposed to be hell, you're by definition dead.
I mean, there are demons who are born, who are like the native species of the Netherrealm. But apparently the undead can also become a demon?
Look, man, just ask Cthulhu about all this stuff between life and death, and that is not dead, which may eternal lie, and so on and so forth.
Because sometimes
really
they refer to Nuke Saibot as a demon.
Sometimes they... I just...
And I mean after they revealed the Sub-Zero backstory.
Smoke's
Like,
a demon,
in Deception,
Saibot's a
Asher
demon.
calls him a demon.
His own ending calls him a demon.
Yeah. So apparently there's a lot of overlap between demon and undead.
Yeah. Anyway, Kung Lao.
Yeah, so like he doesn't really do anything in X. He doesn't really. His Revenant self doesn't do anything in 11 either.
I liked the Razor Buzzsaw ability. The ability to choose between the MK2 hat and the MK3 hat for the first time. That was cool. That was a nice touch. One of the good uses of the variation system that I found entertaining.
Yeah, I do think there are like upsides and downsides to the variation system, and that's a whole complicated argument. But the one upside to it is that it really allows you to flesh out and try all the different possibilities of a character's moveset as superpowers, as opposed to just, well, in MK2, these are the only 4 things you could do. Because, Kung Lao's hat is really kind of interesting in the different ways they make it work. Like, sometimes it buff and comes back to his hand, like Captain America's shield. Sometimes he flings it out, it stops in midair and comes back to his hand, like it's like he's controlling it. Sometimes it fucking teleports.
Yep. I don't try to define exactly how it works. I'm okay.
I'm pretty sure that both Kung Lao and Melina don't have the ability to teleport unless they have their weapon. Like, it's Lao's hat that teleports, and he comes along for the ride when he's dropping through the floor like that.
It's
because he has intros and endings now, like little taunt animations where he'll throw the hat where he wants to go and then pop up through the ground under it.
It's like it acts as an anchor, pretty much.
Yeah, like he can either teleport the hat to him or he can teleport himself to the hat.
Kind of fucking Shaolin technique is this, I wonder?
That's the other,
which chamber is this?
There is something revealed in Kung Jin's backstory in X that the great Kung Lao, over the course of his life as a Shaolin hero, collected a whole bunch of magic artifacts on his adventures and just has like a vault that the family keeps guard over. And that's where Lao's hat and Jin's bow come from.
This is from where?
It's mentioned in Jin's backstory in X.
I gotta go check this out again. I completely forgot about this. A fucking vault of shit, huh?
Yeah,
Neat.
like he went on like D&D adventures back 500 years ago and just has all these magic artifacts.
Single player game waiting to be made. I'm telling you.
Yeah, the Conquest TV show, except good.
Hey, it wasn't all that terrible.
Well, it wasn't all terrible, but
some of it was.
On one hand, it was mostly a good show, and on the other hand, Zero exists.
That's not unfair. I guess that's it for about X, and that aside, I did like a lot of his outfits in that game. I don't think he had a single bad-looking one.
I found the old man goatee to be a weird choice. I don't inherently object to it, but it does make him look more, I don't know, Mexican than Asian to me for some reason.
No, I was about to say the exact same thing. It's because of the hat. It's got a sombrero thing about it. It's the
Yeah,
style. It's the curvature of the mustache itself. He does have a Hispanic feature about him when he's got it on. It's odd. Not terrible, but just it's unusual.
I don't know if I really picture Kung Lao, who has aged gracefully into the old master, would be the beard guy. I don't know that that's his look.
I mean, maybe also consider the fact that maybe not all of Anthony Marquez's influence on the character's look has been lost. Maybe there's that.
It's possible. It is a little westerny, but also I feel like... So there's a thing with Kung Lao's, the way he wears his hair, where sometimes he lets it grow out like Liu Kang, and sometimes, especially in the NRS era, he will actually shave his head. So I feel like he's closer to the Buddhist roots, like more of a Shaolin monk in terms of still following the teachings than Liu Kang is. Because both of them, both of them left the Shaolin when they joined the White Lotus Society, and that's the excuse for why they have hair and don't wear exclusively orange robes, and why Liu doesn't have a vow of chastity that he's off with katana, is because they're not really Shaolin monks anymore. They grew up as monks, and then as adults they kind of went off and had their own life. But Kung Lao seems closer to me than Liu is in terms of still kind of practicing the teachings or being willing to go back to the temple. I feel like old man Lao might go with the shaved head.
Not impossible.
Like maybe he takes his hat off and he's got the dots burned into his forehead like they do. The Krillin look.
I'd like to see it. But I don't know if Bald Lao is getting a lot of fans these days.
Yeah, it's not super popular. I think it would be... People would be more open to it if they had more options. It's just that in 11, there's only either bald or the ugly cowl. And that's chafing.
It was an okay look when it was just on Revenant Kung Lao.
If you're gonna release an MK3 retro skin and he's bald in it, you're actively doing it wrong. That's the problem. People are mad about the inaccuracy more than anything else.
It's not a deal breaker for me. I get it. It was probably about clipping or some such. But I do wish it was more accurate.
I think he doesn't need to have like modeled hair, but you could like color in the stubble. Like you could just make that a texture. And it wouldn't clip with anything because it's not really there. It's just like the scalp is black, like around a hairline. It's the illusion of hair.
Artist's gonna art. That's all I can say, man.
And that would be fine.
Yeah, well. I like the glowing dragons on one of his outfits. I think it's the tournament outfit look.
The
one where he's got like the long braid going on at the back.
Yeah,
I really like that one.
There's a glowing section to his costumes in whichever costume you pick in a specific variation. I don't remember what his variations are called anymore. I think the MK9-ish one was Tempest?
It's long for me.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the render right now, and like the dragon motif down like one side is...
Yeah.
Looks a little bit neon. It's nice.
I really like his tournament skin in X because it looks like the MK2 costume. Like it has that... He's got like blue sleeveless robes with a thing over top, whereas most of the time nowadays his MK2 outfit has been replaced by his Shaolin Monks outfit. And while the Shaolin Monks outfit does have black top, blue pants, there's no blue top under the black top.
I'm looking at the render from X right now. I'm not seeing the blue top under there.
The tournament skin, it's like ripped at the shoulder, like his sleeves are gone, but it's there.
Can't really tell if I'm just looking at the render, but anyway.
Mm.
Didn't realize just how much hex his Revenant look was showing. It's a little bit disquieting. And I've gone on record to saying this before, but I like the jagged ass weird Revenant hat. Like the quadruple pendulum thing going on. I think it's neat.
It's interesting.
It's definitely eye-catching.
I feel like just... I mean, they tied it to a variation, so I understand why it can't be the default for the Revenant, but, like, just the buzzsaw would be grisly enough. I think the weird sort of iron cross shape is a little over the top.
I think that's why I enjoy it. If you're gonna do dark and edgy, well, that's probably the accessory to get to work it out on.
I suppose.
I think I liked it. I think I find it more of a fit for him than like Jax's Revenant Doom arms or something. I don't know.
See, I really like Revenant Jax because the thing about the Revenant skins is the implication that Quan Chi decided this is how you're going to look now. It wasn't up to Jax. and if you're gonna keep the Bionics, then make them look Netherrealmy. You know, as opposed to like Nightwolf and Stryker, who are just wearing their outfits from 9.
I think we consider Nightwolf to have been retconned by MK11 outfit. Nightwolf looks way better.
I would prefer to think of it that way. I mean, that's always the thing, is like there's no such thing as continuity for costumes. They will remake that shit.
Just envision
the next game.
Just envision what you prefer.
Game. Like, this X has a scene that's supposed to be set during the MK2 tournament part of 9 that has Liu Kang, Kung Lao, and Raiden is wearing his MK1 white pajamas, and the time medallion is nowhere to be seen.
Oh, God. It was for the best.
And Lao's in his tournament skin, which has this giant long braided hair, even though his hair was short in 9. Like, Liu Kang's tournament skin is mostly similar to his alt costume from 9. But the other two are clearly wearing new outfits that they did not have. And Baraka's in that scene, and he's wearing a different outfit.
Look, this is not news. None of it.
I just think it's hilarious.
This shit's been happening since, like, MK2, I'm pretty sure.
Like, one of the goals of a reboot is to say, from this point on, consistency. We're gonna get it right now. And NetherRealm Studios doesn't give a fuck.
Alright, okay. Let's get off the NetherRealm hate train. Back up a Kung Lao.
I'm not hating. I'm glad it's funny.
It is. It's a fact, but we are.
I mean, 11 does it to X.
It's just
they pull everybody again from the MK2 tournament part of 9.
And
they're all wearing new outfits.
It's just not news. It's been happening forever. It makes
the one that I like is that in X, Scorpion still does have his 9 outfit, and then 11. He doesn't have that H.R. Geiger thing anymore. Like, past Scorpion is wearing that X-Men costume.
Shall we just move it on to 11, I guess? Because there's not much else
I mean, the most that he really does in X is that he joins in on the pushing and bullying Raiden around scene at the temple. He is the only guy who,
just
like,
shaking him down for lunch
jumps
money.
in time to not get shocked when Raiden's like, it's raining, the ground's wet, electricity. Kung Lao's the only one who sees that coming.
When it comes to MK11, we have a lot to discuss in terms of Kung Lao.
That's true. Like, Kung Lao does have a significant role in 11, which is a little unexpected, honestly.
It's kind of a first.
And
like, we're actually getting focus on the Shaolin Monks for the first time together since their self-titled game.
The the thing I like about it is that Kung Lao is kind of the voice of me going, hey, Raiden literally did get us killed. Why are we trusting this asshole?
I come at it. Sometimes he's right. He's good to be asking questions. He's justified in it. But there is that balance, you know?
Yeah,
neither,
I mean,
neither of them are ever particularly, in my point of view, from my point of view, totally justified. Like, he asks questions often enough that he comes across as just a little bit of the whiny dick we know him as these days.
Well, I think part of that is also, like, the problem with Kung Lao in 11 is that his arcade intros, like his
Yeah.
just like 1v1 fight intro dialogues, are all the whiniest he's ever been.
There's a tale of two Kung Laos going on.
Yeah,
There's
and
the
like he's
smarmy...
not that bad in story mode. Like he's
smarmy in story mode, but I tend to skip over every single bit of dialogue he's got in those pre-versus dialogue.
Yeah, he's just way too extra in the versus intros.
Take a shot every time he says "great."
Yeah, right. Himself. Like he has started calling himself the Great Kung Lao, which is not okay. Like, the whole reason the Great exists is so we can tell you and your ancestor apart. You don't get to touch that. We're trying to not confuse people here. This is why Threshold wouldn't let you be in a movie.
If we are going to poop on anyone from NRS for a second, I'd just like to shout out to Danish Syed for saying that retconning Kung Lao to be a bit of an asshole was one of the best things they've ever done. No, you're wrong. It's irritating. It's like the worst Saturday morning cartoon character I've ever seen. Vegeta has more depth than a half-hour episode of Dragon Ball. It is very Saturday morning
cartoon, isn't it?
It's terrible. It's one-dimensional. It's shit. It's writing for children. It's awful.
He sounds like the character in a kid's show who, like, every other episode is that character messes up and learns a lesson, but then they keep making the same mistake in a future episode because the show doesn't have continuity.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, you know, he's like the Homer Simpson who is always
Who is the Great Kung Lao? You're the Great Kung Lao. You're like great. So very great. Okay,
he's perfectly fine in story mode.
Let's pretend versus mode Kung Lao isn't a thing that exists. In story mode, he's fine. He's just a little bit smarmy. He's like the occasional sarcastic quip.
Yeah. There is one moment in story mode that I thought was an awkward choice.
That being?
So there's a moment when him and Liu Kang in their chapter are going through the temple, and it's about they're talking about how to shut down all the traps that have been started up, and Lao says something like, the monks never showed me how to do that, and Liu Kang says something like, you never studied, or, you know, implies he was lazy in his training. I don't know, that feels off to me, because Kung Lao is such a tryhard. I feel like he probably trained harder than Liu Kang does, and that's why he's salty that Liu is such a natural.
Maybe. Or maybe he's now, in NRS's view, so arrogant and ignorant that he wouldn't bother trying very hard.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because I don't want him to be a fucking joke character.
Not so much a joke character, just another arrogant dipshit in a series where we already have an arrogant dipshit.
So arrogant that you neglect your training and then you become the bad fighter. You're basically the Dan Hibiki.
Yeah. And, you know, if you've already got an arrogant character and he's already being used for humor, the other one is inevitably just unlikable.
I feel like
if you're not going to make him a joke.
Because of like the evolution of Johnny Cage into X as like responsible dad man, Kung Lao is actually the more of a dipshit between him and Johnny now.
Oh, easily.
That's not working for me.
That's sad. Let's tone down the ass hattery here just a little bit.
Yeah, like I did. I like moments where like they come upon the like swinging axes in the hallway, and Liu Kang, just smoothly dives between them, and then he looks back, and first Kung Lao is upset, and then he kind of smirks like, "Okay, motherfucker, I see."
Yeah, the eyebrow wiggle. I'm just gonna wreck shit.
I like
and
that shit.
throws the hand in it.
Yeah,
It's good.
I do wish he had just teleported past the axes instead of jamming them with the hat. That would have been a lot smarter.
Just look at him with like a cocked eyebrow, shrug a little bit. What you doing here, buddy? Why are you bothering? Come on.
I think almost everybody watches that scene and is like, "Oh, he's going to teleport past him," and then they're disappointed when he doesn't.
Just gotta get a little bit of that swagger going on.
Hmm.
Not too other many unique moments I'm remembering from. I do want to again give a shout out to Reverend Kung Lao to actually, in this story mode, for actually being kind of unsettling, creepy a couple of moments.
Yeah, there's some cool staging where like him and Liu Kang are walking out of shadow, and all you can see at first is their glowing eyes.
It's especially cool in their case. Yeah, there's that.
See, that's the thing. Like the shaved head works really well for the Revenant look.
Yeah, exactly. Not so much the human, but I enjoyed on the Revenant.
Yeah,
and there's
something about an Asian with a shaved head that's kind of dark and like Yakuza-ish almost, like.
Well, not to mention the big red glowing eyes.
Yeah.
And there's that moment towards the very end where like Liu and Kung Lao are like fighting their doppelgangers, and like you've got Netherrealm like Revenant Kung Lao like kind of manically screaming and shit, and you got that really uncomfortable tight close up on his face. I remember that bit as being kind of unsettling. It's like, wow, dude's got some serious issues.
Yeah, I do feel with all the like pent up inferiority complex that if you took a guy like that and you released his inner demons, you showed his dark side, it should be a lot more out of control.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's an unexplored aspect of Revenant Kung Lao that, like, if he had a bigger part in X, like that's the one thing that kind of disappoints me about the Revenants is that there is like a legitimately interesting thing you can do with like taking a good guy and showing them unable to control like the darkness in them. And I feel like they tried to do that a little bit with like Kitana has this scene where she tells Jax that like she likes being a Revenant because her whole life other people like Shao Kahn were using her, and now she feels like she can like that she's doing what she wants to do for once. And it's not true because she's under Quan Chi's mind control, but I just feel like if their personalities as Revenants had been based more heavily on whatever insecurities they had when they were alive, I don't think they mined deep enough for material there.
Nah, I get where you're coming from. That's probably asking for a bit too much, though.
Yeah. It would be nice to have a game that's written for adults.
Yeah. Gotta have those one-liners from Johnny. Anyway. So, what else have we really got to talk about here in terms of Kung Lao and MK11? I feel like it redeemed him just a little bit for me. At least the story mode part of it did. I was
never quite as down on his post Shaolin Monks self as you have been, I think. Because I've always sort of seen potential in it, mostly unrealized potential.
It's just a hair. It's a hair's breadth too far for me. I don't like how over the top they go with it.
Yeah, that is a problem.
It's like
I think the main reason I've been forgiving is because I have seen, like, in 9 and X, they pulled back, and I appreciated it, because it felt like they kind of got it that they'd gone too far, and then 11 kind of swings back the other way, and it's disappointing again.
it swings back the other way in fighting mode. In story mode, it feels like a continuation from, like, X, and I appreciate that.
I don't know, it's just, I don't... It's, and we talked about this already, that I feel like when you get to, say, the MK2 and 3 part of the timeline, because Liu Kang's character is so wrapped up in, like, the no-killing rule, and him sort of struggling with trying to keep his morals despite all the bad shit that's happening that he has the power to stop. Kung Lao, because now he's the angsty one, I feel like makes the best voice to be like the devil on Liu Kang's shoulder going, no, we need to fucking kill them, we need to avenge the temple, they murdered our fucking family.
Perhaps.
But they never do that with it, they just make him, I wish I was better than you. Or I think I am better than you. And that's not
satisfying.
doing anybody anything.
If you make the arrogance a character trait and not the entirety of who he is, then I'm okay.
They have a real problem with making X just a trait and not the whole character. See New Sindel, for example.
Okay, let's not and say we didn't.
Like Melina, especially in MK9.
I forgive 9 because of 10.
That's fair. Melina is probably the best she's ever been in X, except for dying. But Melina dies in a lot of things. It's not actually rare. So like, and I know the her Twitter stans haven't played MK2, they don't know the pre-reboot story at all. So they're not going to appreciate that this isn't even her first rodeo in terms of dying and not being in a game.
What are we talking about, Melina? This is the Kung Lao retrospective. What are we doing?
That's true.
Fuck this.
Kung Lao's been not in a couple games.
With less and less frequency over the past couple of years. He's been a mainstay for quite some time now.
Yeah, actually...
He's on my list of people that could stand to take a break.
Yeah, he's not in Vanilla 4, but he's in Gold. He's not in Deception at all. That's it, since he was introduced.
Yeah, that's been
That's it.
I think he could take a bench for a little while.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand if
the
you
problem
feel...
the problem is that, like, if he's on the bench, then the only Shaolin representation is Liu, and Liu could maybe sit the bench more often than he does.
I'm actually surprised that he even had one game off. Really am.
I feel like bringing him right back in Deception cheapened Liu's death in Deadly Alliance. I would have waited till Armageddon to do the zombie thing.
Maybe.
Especially because Zombie Liu doesn't actually do anything plot-wise in Deception.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, like, I don't know.
I guess my point is, I get the need to have your A-game faces. Your fighting games are going to have your Ryu and your Ken, and probably also your Chun-Li, no matter what, like, iteration of your game it's on. So we're always going to have a Scorpion and a Sub-Zero. Odds are a Johnny. We don't always need to have a Kung Lao.
The tragedy of talking about who could take a game off is that the next one's going to be another reboot.
Yeah. Oh, God almighty mercy. He's coming back next time, and we know it.
Yeah.
So is it time to move on to extraneous media? Or our favorite looks?
I suppose so. Like,
our favorite looks for the guy?
Of, like, how 11 ends, Kung Lao is there. He helps the heroes win, and then the universe gets rebooted on him.
Yeah, it's
maybe Time God Lu will have mercy on him, and in the next timeline, Kung Lao will be the hero.
It definitely becomes more of a Lu and Katana story the further the game goes on. Kung just kind of falls by the wayside just a little bit.
You know, I have to tell you, I've always thought that if you were going to do a what if scenario, if you were going to change history, instead of doing it the way 9 did it, my choice for like an interesting Elseworlds version of things would be to have Kung Lao fight Shang Tsung at the MK1 tournament instead of Lu does, and Kung Lao loses and Outworld invades legally.
I'm all about post-apocalyptic Earth.
I mean, you still get MK3 basically, but the way you get there would be different and more tragic, more dark, more, I don't know, hopeless, but not all the way.
Elseworlds?
Because I mean, just because Shao Kahn wins 10 tournaments and gets to invade doesn't mean he automatically wins that invasion, you know? I think that would have been a more interesting way to go if you wanted to change it up, if you wanted to explore like different possible ways the MK universe might play out. That's always been my first suggestion, is what if Kung Lao at the tournament instead of Liu Kang?
I like how the opening into this new and dark chapter in the Mortal Kombat universe comes directly from Kung Lao fucking up.
Well, he'd still get to beat Goro, and then he'd be like, haha, I did it, I avenged my ancestor, I lived my dream, and he's riding that high, and then Shang Tsung gets him.
Why is he screaming never again? Oh god, my neck! Shang's having Vietnam flashbacks of the original Kung Lao whipping his ass over and over again. I suppose my favorite fatality of all time is probably the vertical vivisection. It's nice. Classy, MK2 style. Honorable mention goes to the bunny rabbit.
Yeah, I miss the rabbit.
We all miss the rabbit. Personal favorite look remains the MK2 standard for me.
Favorite costume, I guess. If you chopped the braid off, it would be MKX Tournament.
I don't dislike any of the MKX looks. Like I said before, I find them all pretty good. It's just that I kind of miss the giant symbol on the guy's back, or maybe no, the giant symbol on his front. Sorry, shades.
I get that too. Like, I kind of wish instead of that dragon on the shirt, the tournament skin had the symbol.
Like, it's on his belt, but
yeah,
it's a good look. It's up there. Maybe I'm just too set in my ways. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, like, it is kind of disappointing that, like, the symbol is always there on most of his outfits still. It's just usually on the back instead of on the chest, and it's less visible there. I would prefer it on the front. I think my runner-up skin would be the probably the Shaolin Monks look. You know, MK9 primary, that. I find
probably
like,
a top 5.
I find that the MK2 Classic is a little too plain, and it kind of looks pajamas-y.
Not following you, Chief.
Well, it looks a lot like Raiden without sleeves. And in blue.
That I see, but like...
You know, like there's...
Pajama pants? I don't know.
Because the apron covers up much of the top, you can't tell it's like a gi so much. Like, it almost looks like overalls. Like, it's kind of a onesie. Like, the blue of the top and the pants kind of blend together.
Okay, I see where you're coming from now.
Yeah.
I still prefer to the MK3 Classic.
Yeah, the MK3 one is weird because it's like suspenders.
It began a long history of suspenders, which I didn't
Yeah.
really get.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, Sub-Zero suspenders obviously got improved into something that looks like clothes a person would wear in Deadly Alliance and MKX. But Kung Lao's MK3 look has not had the benefit of a really good redesign ever.
It's acceptable in 11. I still prefer it to the generic regular. I'm
Yeah, I
not
mean, it's just all of his outfits in 11 are so bad that, like, the retro skin is really the only refuge.
like I kind of like some of the hat accessories he's got, but no, I really don't dig the regular human kind of
It's the damn
conquistador
towel.
look.
And like some of them have a weird poncho. Like he looks like the American flag in half his outfits now, and that's weird, man.
He's about to step off of a Spanish barge and claim the land for the
Yeah.
king. It's awful.
And like every time I have a really strong complaint with a costume from the NRS era, it's because that costume is on a character who's supposed to be from the MK1 through 3 part of the timeline. Like, Human Kung Lao in 11 was sucked back from the MK2 tournament. So, shouldn't he be wearing something that looks like what he wore in the arcade days? Like, you can redesign it so it looks more modern, but it should still remind me of that clothing. He didn't have a poncho on in MK2.
Here's a thought. We go back to the classic designs and we stop reinventing everyone every game because we can.
Well, just remember when Shaolin Monks first came out and the idea, like, art-wise, was everybody was redesigned, but you still recognize their MK2 outfits for their MK2 outfits, just more detail.
Or less with Melina.
Yeah, I mean, well, the girls are the most different. Because Melina's literally just kind of wearing one of her deception outfits. Like, I think it's even skimpier than her deception outfits, actually.
It is. The skimpiest thing she's ever worn.
Yeah,
Different
it's just
hairstyle,
kind of
too.
a bikini. It's just a bikini.
It's like 2 steps off from being a slingshot.
Yeah.
But yes, I also kind of really dislike Kung Lao's 11 Revenant outfit. I don't know what the deal is with the Jaws of Death on his chest.
Well, he had that in his ex-Revenant outfit.
It looks weird. It looks worse here, though.
It is a little weird. I can't, like, put my finger on it because they're so close to being the same, and because his Revenant outfit is mostly made of black leather and shards of metal, and it just kind of all blends together the way, like, a Bayformer does.
And it's got a variation where, like, it's just the shoulder pads for no good reason.
Yeah, that male stripper look that they keep... It keeps coming back.
And that other one, like you mentioned, it's leather and whatnot and metal and no shoulder pads, but the rest of it's decent, but not quite. It's all blend. Ah, God, it's all terrible.
I don't know. I don't know.
No one does.
Revenant fashion sense is questionable at best of times.
Just
I really do think, like, the only one who really nails the concept of take what they look like in life and then make it super, like, from hell is Jax and his twisted growing out of the skin monster arms. And you get, like, if you pick the variation that makes the parts of his shirt glow, it's the monster face that glows in his Revenant skin in X. And that's fun.
Okay, yeah, no. Looking at him in X and comparing him to the way he is in 11, 11's got a lot more, like, silver shit going on everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of harsh outlines, and, like, in comparison, the X look is way more toned down and sensible, if you can believe that kind of thing. It's all a car crash waiting to happen. In progress. So, I guess now's about the time where we move on to extraneous appearances in media.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fatality first? Favorite fatality?
Didn't we? I did.
Did we?
I did. Straight up vivisection, yo.
Oh, yeah. It was like the bunny rabbit was my vote, wasn't it?
I think you said yes. Yes, it was.
Okay.
Bunny rabbit, vivisection.
Mm.
Bunny rabbit's my second favorite. Can't particularly say that I ever really enjoyed the MK3 fatalities. I was always bothered at the fact that they would keep screaming while the cat would go through their chest and waist and knees while their head was on the ground.
You know, MK3 was the king of reused assets. They got a lot of mileage out of, like, the Cabal runs past them and makes them spin sprite. Especially in the home versions, because, like, in the arcade, Kung Lao, when he would do his spin and suck you in and destroy you, he had his own tornado sprite for it. But in the home versions, they just used the Cabal spin sprite.
Yeah, it was, like, wider when Kung Lao did it.
Yeah, and you could see, like, where his hat was, like, the colors and everything.
So I think, yeah, Malibu Comics was the first time we ever saw Kung Lao in any outside piece of media. And we first see him walking through the living forest wearing this really badass, like, robe over his shoulders. And we see, like 3 panels of him being a really nice guy to this dipshit living forest tree who's like, you can't come through here. This is our town. This is our hood. And he's like, I mean you no harm. I'm just a simple traveler, and I wish to go on. And the tree just whacks him with one of its branches.
Came to the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker.
Yeah, pretty much. And, yeah, Kung Lao doesn't take very well to that. So he just kind of, like, Ip Man punches the tree into oblivion, and the rest of them just leave him alone as he walks on.
You know, was it the Malibu book who, in, like, the Katana issue about her backstory, said that the living forest used to be the laughing forest before Shao Kahn?
That is correct, yes.
That's creepier to me.
Yeah, I'm getting, like, Lucky Charms vibes, gnomes and shit. No thank you.
Like, I'm not comfortable with trees that are, like, smiling all big like a fucking masquerade mask. I don't need that shit in my life. That's scarier to me than the, like, sad Ed Boon-faced ones.
I used to have nightmares about the living forest when I was a child. I really did. Like, thinking about it, you know. Fucking have a bunch of them laughing all day. Some Tom Bombadil shit going on.
That is not...
No, thank you. It's not cool.
Yeah, that is some, like, bad acid trip. That's some fever dream territory. Trees that laugh is not the nice version of trees with faces.
Kung Lao spends most of Malibu Comics kind of not doing very much in particular.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't really have, like, a plan for when they introduced the MK2 characters. They were just like, oh shit, the next game came out. They're ahead of us. We need to catch up.
That's pretty well it. Like, I think, if I'm recalling correctly, he teams up with Liu Kang, Sub-Zero, and Katana, and Baraka for a little while, and they have some wacky adventures.
Was Liu Kang involved in that team?
I believe he was. I might be misremembering.
Because I remember Katana, Baraka, and Sub-Zero being there.
Let me see. It was one of the 2 Shaolin Monks, I remember that.
It was definitely Kung Lao was there. I don't think Liu Kang was with them though. And I can't remember what they were doing for the life of me.
No, like, I think that they were like trying to find some sort of secret way to topple Shao Kahn, but
Yeah, something like that.
they just wound up wandering around and getting into odd fights. And then Baraka just fucking, you know, pissed on them all pretty much. That's all I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was kind of aimless.
It was the B plot or the C plot, honestly.
Yeah, there were so many B plots. Like every once in a while, they were like morally obliged to cut to Bo the bodyguard, whatever he was doing.
Oh my god. No, that aside, Kung Lao has the dubious honor of having the very last Malibu Comics issue to ever come out. He had his own one-shot, which could take place virtually anywhere in the Malibu timeline. It's not connected to anything. It's just like him flashing back to like his ancestor's death and feeling the need to avenge him and shit, and then Shang Tsung shows up and turns into Katana and tries to make out with him. Yeah, it's not a particularly good way to end things out, and the art's actually kind of terrible.
Yeah, I mean, Malibu never really had great art. Like, even at its best, it was still trying to be that, like, really scratchy, heavily hatched style of, like, the 90s image guys like Rob Liefeld. And
I've always...
It just kept getting more angular and rushed looking as time went on.
Whenever Kiki Chen Samane was on art duties, you were not in for a good time. But I liked when Patrick Rollo was on art duties. That guy knew what he was doing. Like, he did a great cover of Jade and Smoke for MK Battle Wave, and I kind of want that without the text as a poster. It's
yeah,
lovely.
I do remember that being all right.
But, yeah, he's just kind of there in Malibu. He's in the Jeff Roven novel, and here he actually is 100% bona fide Shaolin Monk. Peaceful. He does not have a razor hat at all.
Ah, yes.
He's literally just a guy that Kano kind of takes hostage so he can be shown the way to the original Great Kung Lao's amulet, which is buried in the side of a mountain.
Yeah, I remember him being in it, and I remember his part being very small, but it's been so long since I read the book that I don't remember the details anymore.
The only notable thing is that Shang Tsung at one point, to ensure his compliance and to ensure a lack of fuck-ups, fuses Kung Lao and Kano together.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah. And he refers to them as a kind of living smoke. The smoke is not capitalized, so it's left ambiguous as to whether or not this may be some sort of early concept of a gray ninja. It never actually acts as a gray ninja. I remember reading this and going, is this what they're seriously going with? But no, nothing ever comes to fruition, and they reclaim the amulet, the deed is done, and the guy guilt trips over it. But that's about the long and short of it. Doesn't have a huge part in the Jeff Roven novel. He's just kind of a hostage.
Yeah.
No mention of a hat, nothing.
Yeah.
That's about all I can remember. But you said he was in Legacy Season 2.
Yeah, I mean, he's not in any Threshold thing, although in the Conquest TV show, they kind of went out of their way to make Great Kung Lao dress like regular Kung Lao.
Gotta really, really define those bloodlines. Make
I
sure
mean,
everyone knows.
for most of the show's run, Kung Lao's outfit is a white shirt and brown pants. But in the first episode, he shows up to the tournament to fight Shang Tsung wearing our Kung Lao's MK3 costume, hat included.
Again, such early prevalence of the MK3 outfit.
Yeah.
I do wonder why.
It's kind of odd, because it's, like, accurately made, too. Like, it looks right. And it's like, where was this when you were making Annihilation, man? He takes off the hat to actually fight in the tournament. He doesn't use the hat. But he wears the hat when he shows up in the hat, and I'm like, where'd you get the hat? Why? Why would Great Kung Lao... Like, why wouldn't he show up dressed like a Shaolin monk?
God, who knows?
So anyway, that's all the Kung Lao there was for the 90s. The entirety of the 90s. Like, he was the one guy who was always getting the shaft. Like, think about how big the roster of Trilogy is. The only characters who do not appear in either the first movie or Annihilation are Kintaro, Sector, and Kung Lao.
Quan Chi even gets in there in deleted scenes.
Yeah, like Cabal and Striker's names are mentioned. That's
like, they tried so hard to get as much in there as they possibly could. But with Kung Lao, I guess they just figured, you know what? This requires too much explanation, Deus Ex Machina. But you know what? They could have maybe met him at, like, the temple or something. That's where they started out.
I don't know. They were too committed. Like, once you make Liu Kang the descendant of the great Kung Lao, then you no longer need regular Kung Lao.
Yeah, I suppose.
His entire storyline has just been stolen by another guy. And that's why, like, the idea that in the games, starting with 4, like, Liu Kang's bio said that he was also a descendant of the great Kung Lao. That is... John Tobias looks back on that choice with regret. Like, he figures that shouldn't be canon. Like, in his mind, it's not canon. And the modern games never mention it. They don't consider it canon either. Because, like, if Liu Kang and Kung Lao are, like, cousins, which is what that implies, then you're just kind of stealing Lao's jam, man. Like, that's all he's got. He is...
Let the guy have something.
The descendant of the great Kung Lao. And most of his, like, angsts revolve around that.
What's actually funny, looking at the great Kung Lao's depiction in MK11 and Kung Lao's ending, he's kind of got elements from both Liu and Kung Lao in there. They're trying to tell us something?
I mean...
Like, he looks more like both of them than ever before. Like, the spiked wristbands, the red headband.
Yeah. Well, the headband has been red for a long time.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Yeah.
Maybe there was an initial plan there or something, who knows?
I mean, I think he has spiked wristbands in the original comic. I mean, in the comic, there was more, like, brown in his color scheme, I'm pretty sure.
Original headband was dark brown.
Yeah.
And the
artwork. I think they made it more red, starting with, I think the 9 ending is the first time in a long time that we saw Great Kung Lao. Because, like, he's not really wearing a headband in the MK2 ending where he looks like an old man. And he's only in silhouette in the MK3.
Huge boy.
Yeah, very tall.
And that was something that I wanted to bring up, because, like, visually there's always kind of been, I guess, that slight parallel to both of them.
Yeah, there is kind of an in-between quality where, like, Lao wears the name, but Liu Kang kind of dresses like Great Kung Lao did. And that's why I always sort of like to headcanon a backstory for the headband, where Great Kung Lao wore this red headband, and when Goro beat him, he took it, and he's like, as a trophy, and then Liu Kang beat him and took it back, and that's why after MK1 is when Liu Kang starts wearing a headband. And that's not in the games, that's totally headcanon, but I like it. Like, I wish it were a thing, because it makes too much sense.
Is that it till MK Legacy Season 2? I think it is.
Yes, it is. I mean, honestly, that's it for Mortal Kombat Media. Conquest to Legacy is a big old empty spot.
Pretty well.
So Legacy Season 2 starts with Liu Kang and Kung Lao not having been introduced yet. Like, the first episode of Season 2 introduces the show's version of Liu Kang. And it starts in this Chinatown karaoke bar.
God.
And Liu Kang is there getting drunk, and he's sad because in this series he had a girlfriend who was murdered. And I mean, it's kind of an adaptation of Liu's backstory from the movies, where he moved to America, and instead of a bike messenger or whatever he was in the first movie, he works at like a diner, and he falls in love with this girl who works at the diner, and I think they're going to get married, and then the diner is robbed and she's shot, and ever since then he's been like, why am I even fighting to save humanity? Like, there's this weird implication in Legacy that before the tournament, Liu Kang already has this long history of fighting Shang Tsung in like a series of battles that they never explain.
I just want to say that Brian T is a really shitty looking Liu Kang. He's really terrible. Like, he's just been totally miscast.
Well, the thing is, like, Brian T, like, I saw an interview with him before Season 2 came out, where he talks about how, like, he's usually cast to play, like, the heavy in martial arts movies. Like, he's a bad guy kind of actor. He plays a lot of Yakuza gangsters and stuff like that.
He's just got this grimace the entire time.
Yeah, and so when he was approached to play Liu Kang, he didn't want to do it because Liu Kang is a protagonist, and that's not his thing. And then Tankerowan's like, oh, no. Liu Kang's dark and evil in my version. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. That sounds like up my alley.
Christ.
Yeah, Brian T is the kind of person who should be playing B. Han.
Like, he's got the face for it.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're introduced to Liu Kang, and we don't know any of this backstory yet in the first episode. We just know that he's getting drunk in a bar, and the guy singing karaoke starts to sing, I forget what the song is, but it's whatever song it was the dead girlfriend's favorite song. So Liu is like, hey, don't sing that song, and he starts a bar fight over it.
So emo.
Yeah, and at the end of the bar fight, Liu has kicked all these guys' asses, and he's got this one dude over the pool table, and he's just wham, 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 wham in the face, going too far. And I think another guy gets up and is about to, like, whack Liu over the back of the head, but he gets taken out by the hat. And Kung Lao's hat is just like a regular blunt wicker hat, like it doesn't have the blade. But it does come back to him Captain America style after he threw it, and he puts it back on. And he's like, he has come here to get Liu Kang. He's like, sees what a mess he is, and he's like, stop it, stop beating them. He's already down, man. I can't believe that you have fallen this far, and that kind of thing. And then there's the scene where Liu comes back with him, which again, this isn't China, this is like Chinatown. So it's like the local like Buddhist monastery. It's like small rinky-dink street church. They go into a back room and Kung Lao's gonna like meditate and shit, and he starts giving him this lecture about not following the Buddhist Eightfold Path. So he's like talking real world Shaolin Buddhism, despite the Mortal Kombat universe being one where they know the elder gods exist and they worship Raiden. Which is not really compatible, I feel. Like, I don't think of the MK universe Shaolin as being Buddhist. I think that they follow the Elder God religion instead.
I'm pretty sure it's actually been mentioned somewhere that they're their own specific sect of Shaolin. That they're not actually strictly Buddhist speaking.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I think there's an intro in 11 where Liu Kang calls himself a Buddhist monk. Which
Buddhism...
fucking... It's 11. It's not really canon, so whatever.
Well, Buddhism isn't so much a direct faith, so much as a belief system.
Yeah, but so Buddhism functions on the belief that you can escape the cycle of reincarnation by learning to not care about the material world anymore. Your soul can transcend your body and you'll go on to nirvana or whatever.
More or less.
Yeah, so that's not really compatible with the Mortal Kombat afterlife that Liu Kang and Kung Lao know exists, involving like good people go to heaven and bad people go to hell.
Now, to play devil's advocate, I don't like the reincarnation angle that they're trying to push for Kung Lao in recent games, but that does imply that reincarnation is still a thing which exists in the MK universe. So it's not an either-or scenario as far as I'm concerned.
So now I wonder what mechanic that works under. Like, do the Elder Gods, if they like somebody enough, say, okay, your soul isn't stuck in heaven, we'll put you back in another body? Like, what's
There are some things about the Force even the Jedi don't know.
It just raises too many questions.
Don't think about it too hard. I want to point out that actually I like the way Kung Lao looks in this outfit. In the series.
Are you looking at, like, cause he wears two outfits in the show. Like, he's got, like, normal orange monk robes. Then when he goes to the island for the tournament, he's got something that's kind of based on his MK2 outfit.
I actually find myself enjoying the Buddhist monk with the wicker hat look.
It's all right, and I will say, like,
it's kind of inspired.
If you're going to go the route they go, where Kung Lao is already the pacifist, he's the devout believer, and Liu is the angsty, rebellious one. If Lao is going to be the pious type, the pacifist type, I think it's a smart choice to take the blade off the fucking hat.
Yeah. It looks a little bit odd when the wicker hat is on the MK2-esque look.
Yeah.
But, I mean, overall, I don't hate it.
Like, I almost wish that in the games, like, MK4 and Deadly Alliance Kung Lao had a blunt hat to show that he had given up the non-pacifism.
That'd be
You know, it
fun.
would, like, the character development, the evolution, I think, because his gameplay would still be the same. You'd only have to change his fatalities.
Maybe, I
Although
don't know.
the one thing you would lose is the ending where he slashes Goro across the chest as like a ceremonial mark. Like maybe if he started wearing a blunt hat after 4, like he's like, I need the hat for one last thing. But that's not what we got. So
it's never going to happen.
you know, I do like the outfit he wears when he gets to the island, the MK2-ish one.
Yeah, it just looks weird with the wicker hat. That's all.
Yeah. The one thing, so there's this weird scene where after Liu Kang fucks off, he's like, "No, I'm not coming back to the temple. I'm still mad." Nah. And he leaves. And then Kung Lao, he just kind of wanders off into an alley, and he prays in the middle of the alley and suddenly turns to like smoke on the wind and materializes on Shang Tsung's island. Like somehow he just knows in his head that it's the time and this is how I get there. Cause like everybody arrives on the island in this like puff of smoke. There's no boat because there's no budget. But how did he know to go there? Did he hear Raiden's voice in his head and they just didn't put voiceover in for our benefit?
The Elder Gods work in mysterious ways.
And it's so weird this entire fucking season because like the tournament is Kung Lao and Sub-Zero from the ancient past and Kenshi from the ancient past and Stryker and Johnny Cage and Raiden. And they all just ups of smoke on this fucking rocky beach. And the other side is Shang, Liu Kang, Kitana, Melina, Scorpion, and fucking Ermac. And it's...
Okay, go fight now. Whee!
Like, Sonya and Jax were in Season 1, but they didn't come back. Like, why do they show a Sector and Cyrax if they weren't going to use them?
Talk about proceeding without a plan. But is that it for Kung Lao? I think it is.
Well, yeah, because, like, he doesn't really do anything on the island except show up in the very last episode to stop Liu Kang from killing Johnny and Stryker, and, like, they stand off like they're gonna fight each other, and that's the cliffhanger the season ends on, and there never was a Season 3. So that's it. That's all the Kung Lao that there is. And I will, like, the one thing that really bothers me is, okay, so at some point, the creatives involved in this show went, we're going to make Liu Kang evil because regular Liu Kang is too good and boring. And then they gave that exact personality, the too good and boring one, to Kung Lao, as opposed to not using it. So, like, the personality is good enough for their show. They just wanted it on Hat Guy instead of Headband Guy. I don't, like...
Because
what's the fucking difference, man?
Because edgy anti-heroes are big. That's all there is to it.
Okay, but, like, in the regular games, Kung Lao is the edgy anti-hero. All they did was flip them, and then make the bad one badder.
You can't count on Hollywood to pay attention to source material. When they do, it's a nice surprise.
I don't understand, if you think that personality is boring, why you would still give it to a different character. Like, why use it at all? And I don't think they thought that deep into it.
No,
I don't think they cared. Like,
they
somewhere in their subconscious, they were probably going, it's okay if Kung Lao is like this, because Kung Lao's a B-list.
You think they actually gave any thought to this whatsoever, you're wrong.
No, that's why I'm using the word subconscious. Like, they didn't actively think it.
They didn't bring back Raiden or, like, Sonya and Jax.
Well, no, Raiden is there. He's just played by a different actor. And his actor looks exactly the same as half the actors because most of the cast of Season 2 are just short-haired Chinese guys with beards.
I remember that bit, see? Pointless.
He didn't wear the hat. Like, that might have helped. Because he put the hat on at the end of Season 1.
I think we're done now.
Remember that scene? Raiden escapes the fucking mental institute and he walks down an alley and he steals the coolie hat from a homeless guy in the alley.
Yes, I remember that.
No hat in Season 2.
I don't even remember him being in Season 2.
Yeah, no, he doesn't really look like Raiden. He's just another bearded Chinese guy. The only way you can tell he's Raiden is that, like, he's kind of wearing white pants.
That's probably why I don't remember him.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a picture of him right now. I think that was Kenshi. Without a blindfold. I think we're done talking about this now, and if we're not, I'd like to be.
It's such a waste of Kenshi, because he was played by Dan Southworth. He was fucking Virgil, and that's all they did with him?
It was a waste of a lot of things, including my personal time. And money for the Blu-ray. So that's it, I guess. That's Kung Lao.
Yeah, that's all the Kung Lao that there is.
So, I guess,
all the Lao that's fit to print.
Any closing thoughts whatsoever?
I will maintain that Kung Lao is a character who's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because his fans feel that he's kind of been owed the front seat for a while. That he's kind of played the sidekick too long, and especially in Deadly Alliance, it was kind of his time to shine, and it never really happened. But, I think that, sometimes a really good B-lister shines best staying in the B-list. Like...
True.
Like, Smoke is at his best when he's with Sub-Zero. I don't know that Smoke, as a main character, would be as effective as the two of them as a team. So I think maybe Kung Lao shines best when he's sort of like... Bo Raicho also has this always the bridesmaid, never the bride thing, where as a teacher, he's created these great students who went on to win the tournament, like Great Kung Lao and Liu Kang. But Bo Raicho himself kind of sucks as a fighter. I think maybe that's the right lane to sit Kung Lao in, where his future in the series could be as a trainer. Like, he is the guy who inherits the Bo Raicho mantle. I think that might be a more comfortable place for him as, like, the headmaster of the Shaolin Temple in future games. That whoever the next hero is, he's the mentor. He's the Obi-Wan.
That is, of course, implying that the current timeline would continue.
Well, yeah, no, I mean... I tend to think of things like this in a sort of wishful thinking, what if Armageddon had an end timeline?
Right. It's going to be a while before you get to that point, though.
Yeah.
I don't ask much from Kung Lao. I just ask they drop the reincarnation angle, and they just tone down the douchebagness a little bit.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't think the reincarnation angle really even pans out in 11, because when you have the ghost of a guy hanging over your shoulder fighting at your side, that's clearly not your soul, that's a second soul.
I just worry that they'll try to make this part of his lore, or like make it part of his story or some shit, and I have no idea.
I don't know, because again, like 11 takes place after Shang Tsung has died and all the souls he stole are free. So I'm okay with GKL's ghost hanging out after that point.
You know, actually, that's a little detail that I forgot to mention from the Rovan novel. Kung Lao is pretty much born right after the Great Kung Lao dies. They kind of imply that there might be a death and rebirth cycle going on there. It's not specified, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. There is something weird going on with, like, the timeline of the Rovan novel, because, like, I mean, even MK1 said Great Kung Lao died 500 years ago. You know, that's how long Goro's winning streak has been. So unless regular Kung Lao in the book is 500 years old, or Rovan just shifted all the when things happened.
It was a shifting, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's it for Kung Lao. And next up is Baraka, I do believe.
Yes, I think we're ready to do Baraka. Unless
you wanted to do Ermac just to mess with people.
No, I think once we start 2, the Ermac is...
Alright.
That train has left the station.
Fair enough.
It also means, like, if we did Ermac now, then we'd have to do Scarlet soon, and I'd rather do her as a 9 character.
As would I. Alright, folks. Thank you for sticking with us. This is going to be one long 4-hour episode. So I wanted to thank you for that. It means a lot to us. We didn't want to have to go through a 4-parter
as long as it's taking you to listen, it took us a lot longer to record.
These things don't come out quickly, and I find that I'm at my best when I record in separate parts, rather than try to marathon it in, like, a single 4-hour stretch.
Yeah.
I'll start tuning out, and I won't do well. I need to be in the moment. I need to be fresh.
Yeah.
That's why these things tend to take a little while, outside of a busy schedule. So...
I will say, you know...
Yep.
I have to say, like, I am kind of excited to talk about Baraka now. I don't think before 11 I ever would have felt that way.
11 gave us a lot of... My god, I can't believe I'm about to say it. Food for thought.
I was going to say meat on the bone.
Kaka-condor. Alright, folks. Have a good day, and stay sharp.
Stay sharp.
You fucking love it.
Hey. See you later, nerds.